Chapter 29:30. You mentioning Yun Muzha was like stabbing Yun Tianming's heart with a sharp blade, causing his expression to change. This was because Yun Muzha was his grandnephew, but he died in Lin Sun's hands during the Yuan sect's disciple recruitment test. Lin Sun smiled. I know that you have a prejudice against me because of Yun Muzha. But don't worry, I won't argue with you because of this matter in this operation, so as not to embarrass the sect in front of outsiders. Yun Tianming was so angry that his face darkened. Yuan Changtian, who had a panoramic view of this scene, laughed heartily. Brother Lin is right. The grudges in the sect in the past are our internal affairs after all. This time, we must work together to win glory for the sect in the immortal Dao battle. Of course. Lin Sun nodded. Yun Tianming snorted and didn't say anything else. Greetings, elderly. Lin Sun came to Li Zhen's side and cupped his hands. Li Zhen nodded. He had bronze skin, his figure was as tall as a mountain, and his rock-like face was as cold as before. In the void, Fang Daoping and Yuan Shiliu appeared out of thin air. Fang Daoping smiled. Everyone is here. Let's set off now. Whoosh! Outside the Yuan realm, on the myriad star sea, a treasure ship carrying Lin Sun and the others broke through the void. On the treasure ship, Lin Sun, Yuan Changtian, and the others each received a jade slip from Fang Daoping. The jade slip recorded the names of the experts from the 3 ancestral halls of the Zen sect, Shaman sect, and Spirit sect that would participate in the immortal Dao battle. Lin Sun looked at it and was shaken. On the list of the ancestral halls of Spirit sect, there was the name of his 20th senior brother, Moon Inwell. Furthermore, it was noted that Moon Inwell was at the peak of Nirvana God realm, and his attainments in archery were superb. Last time, I met senior sister Qing Yu during the Dao discussion of the 9 Peak. This time, I can meet senior brother Moon Inwell. This is a pleasant surprise. Lin Sun was excited. Moon Inwell was the #1 archer of Mount Fangsun. His Dao of archery had the power to shatter the heavens. His archery skills were unparalleled and mysterious. These were all things Lin Sun had heard from other senior brothers and sisters. As expected, the Ji clan, Song clan, and Wen clan have also sent out their divine sons and divine daughters. Not far away, Yuan Changtian, who was also looking at the jade strip, spoke softly. Elder Yuan seems to have discovered something different? Chao Beidu asked softly. Although they were both elders of the Yuankong Pavilion, when facing Yuan Changtian, Chao Beidu's tone and expression were filled with respect. This isn't a secret, Yuan Changtian said casually. Look at the name list. Song Fufeng of the Ancestral Court is the godchild of the Tsang clan of the 9th heaven. His temperament is as violent as fire, and he's also quite famous in the 9th heaven. I have to say that his talent is heaven-defying, as he can control the 9-flame divine wind. Ordinary people of the same level as him wouldn't be able to withstand the burning power of such a divine ability. Look at Wen Xiaoshui of the Ancestral Court of the Zen sect. He also comes from the Wen clan of the 9th heaven. 300 years ago, he had already reached the Nirvana divine realm perfection. The reason why he has been suppressing his cultivation until now is probably because he wants to seek an extraordinary path when he reaches the transcendent realm. This person's temperament is as calm as a mountain, and his heart is as tough as a rock. If you encounter him, he will definitely be a tough opponent. As for Ji Shanhai of the Ancestral Court, her name sounds like a man's, but in fact, she is the youngest daughter of the Divine Clan's Ji clan patriarch. She is also the most valued member of the clan. This woman looks quiet and peaceful, but when she fights, she has a great momentum. In the 9th heaven, she is also favored by her peers. Chong. Speaking of this, Yuan Changtian couldn't help but have a strange look in his eyes. There has been a saying in the 9th heaven that whoever can capture the heart of Ji Shanhai will get the support of the entire divine clan Ji clan. There are even people who call Ji Shanhai a fairy, who is the most beautiful woman in the world. This made Chao Beidu, Yun Tianming, and the other old men who have lived for countless years fascinated. They couldn't imagine what kind of peerless woman could have so many halos. Sigh, I didn't expect that Ji Shanhai would also come. This is going to be tricky. Yuan Changtian sighed softly. Song Fufeng and Wen Xiaoshui were also divine sons like him, so they weren't afraid of anything. However, he had an indescribable fear towards Ji Shanhai. In fact, Ji Shanhai was too famous in the ninth heaven. Even some Eternal Realm experts knew that the divine clan Ji clan had the most beautiful woman in the world. Young Elder Yuan, you don't have to belittle yourself. In the battle of the 10 demonic domains, we will see who will emerge victorious in the end. Yuan Shiliu said softly. He almost called out young master just now. That's right. With Elder Yuan in our Yuan sect, we are not afraid of them. Chao Beidu said with a smile. Yun Tianming also nodded. They had lived for a long time, but in front of Elder Yuan, who came from the ninth heaven, they had to lower their posture. What do you think, Brother Lin? At this moment, Yuan Changtian looked at Lin Sun. I'm not familiar with them. What can I think? Lin Sun said casually. Yuan Changtian laughed. If other people said so, they would say that they are ignorant and fearless. But Brother Lin, you are full of spirit. Chao Beidu and Yun Tianming were stunned. They didn't expect Yuan Changtian to be so polite to Lin Sun. Lin Sun said with a smile, Elder Yuan, you are flattering me. In this immortal cultivation tournament, you are the only one who knows the background of those divine sons and divine daughters. Whether you can win glory for our Yuan sect depends on your ability at that time. Yuan Changtian smiled bitterly and shook his head. We will act together and face everything together. If I am alone, I will be doomed to be alone. Lin Sun smiled but didn't say anything. I think we should listen to Elder Yuan's arrangement. After all, he knows the strength of the opponents like the back of his hand. Chao Beidu suggested. Of course, Yun Tianming agreed without hesitation. Seeing that Lin Sun and Li Zhen didn't speak, Chao Beidu and Yun Tianming were unhappy. What do you think? Chao Beidu asked. Lin Sun said, if you and Peak Master Yun weren't here, maybe I would be willing to act with Elder Yuan. But now I'm afraid I can't. Chao Beidu and Yun Tianming's faces were gloomy. Lin Sun's meaning couldn't be more obvious. He didn't want to be with them. Chao Beidu said coldly, Deacon Lin, you only care about internal strife now and don't obey the overall situation. If there is a problem with the ranking of the Yuan sect in this immortal cultivation battle, you will be the culprit. Lin Sun narrowed his eyes and was about to say something when Fong Daoping, who had been meditating not far away, opened his eyes and said, Why argue about this? The ranking of the sect is determined by the number of ordered desolate beasts each of you has killed in the 10 demonic regions, and not by these verbal dispute. Speaking of this, he looked at Chao Beidu. If you don't agree with each other, when the immortal cultivation battle starts, you can compete to kill more order wild beasts. Chao Beidu said with a gloomy face, Deputy Leader Fong, you're right. Fong Daoping paid no attention to him. Instead, he swept the surroundings with his gaze and said with a smile, All of you may not know this, but no matter who it is, as long as you're able to bring glory to the sect during the Eternal Law battle, you'll naturally receive an unexpected reward when you return to the sect. As soon as the words came out, Yuan Changtian was stunned. Obviously, he didn't know about this. He immediately cupped his fists and asked, Deputy Leader Fong, what kind of reward is this? Fong Daoping smiled and said, Let me keep you guessing. In short, I won't let you down. Yuan Changtian looked at Yuan Shiliu, who shook his head and said, I don't know. Well, we can help Elder Yuan hunt the order wild beasts together and get the reward. Chao Beidu said and glanced at Lin Sun provocatively. Lin Sun couldn't back down. He smiled and said, I'm looking forward to seeing how many Order Wild Beasts Elder Chow can help our sect to get a higher ranking in the Immortal Cultivation battle. If Elder Chow can do it, the reward of the sect will naturally belong to Elder Chow. Chow Beidu's face darkened. Just as he was about to say something, Yuan Changtian stopped him. He smiled bitterly and shook his head. Everyone, we should help each other in order to get a better ranking in the Immortal Cultivation battle. Let's not quarrel anymore. At the same time, Yuan Shiliu glanced at Chow Beidu and Yun Tianming. Both of them were shocked and didn't dare to say anything. Lin Sun was too lazy to argue with them. Fang Daoping took in all of this, but he didn't say anything else. 7 days later. Which world? The ancestral court of which sect? This was a world like the prehistoric times. There was a primitive and ancient aura everywhere. There were ferocious birds and savage beasts galloping in group. Their roars were like thunder, shaking the mountains and rivers. Divine Hall, the core of the witch world. At this time, a group of shamans stood in front of the Divine Hall. In the ancestral court of which sect, there were 12 branches and 3 divisions. The 12 branches were gold, wood, water, fire, earth, wind, thunder, sky, and earth. It was similar to the 9 peaks of the Yuan sect. The 12 branches were divided into witch masters, elders, bloodline successors, and successors. The 3 divisions were priest division, combat division, and justice division. In the 3 divisions there were heaven priest, earth priest, elder, grand witch, and shaman. Heaven priest was equivalent to the position of pavilion master of the 3 pavilions of the Yuan sect. Earth priest was equivalent to the deputy pavilion master of the Yuan sect. At this time, waiting in front of the Divine Hall were the shamans of the witch sect. Each of them had the terrifying cultivation of transcendent realm perfection. Apart from them, there were also elders, witch masters, grand witches, and other roles. Reporting. The powerhouses of the Yuan sect's ancestral court have arrived outside the realm gate. Suddenly, a deep voice came from afar. Immediately, there was a commotion in front of the Divine Hall. I didn't expect the Yuan sect to be the first to arrive. A cold light flashed in someone's eyes. That's good. I want to see what the successor of Fang Xiyuan, Lin Sun, who suppressed Xing Jun during the Dao discussion of the 9 peaks of the Yuan sect, looks like. Lin Sun. A murderous aura flashed between the eyebrows of the shamans present. They were no stranger to this name. The relationship between the witch sect and Fang Xiyuan Mountain was the kind of enemy that couldn't be resolved. P.S. The word Ho means earth. Shun Ho means the protection of the gods. Finally, I wish everyone a happy Qixi Qiqiao Festival Literature Hall. Chapter 2931. Zhu Wenheng was the leader of the Witchcraft Tribe's priests. He was the priest of the Witchcraft Tribe's war division with a transcendent realm great perfection cultivation. He was also a member of the Zhu family, one of the top 10 immortal giants in the 8th heaven. Seeing everyone's murderous intent towards Lin Sun, Zhu Wenheng coughed and said in a deep voice, "Don't worry, everyone. When the immortal Tao battle begins, Lin Sun will definitely die. What if he leaves the 10th devil territory alive?" Someone asked. In such a situation, if this kid is still able to return alive, then it can only prove that our sect is too useless, Zhu Wenheng said coldly. His words made everyone's expression change slightly. Of course it's impossible. Any Nirvana Great Perfection expert in this world would definitely die, let alone a little guy in the early Nirvana realm. Someone sneered. That's right. Besides, it's not just our witchcraft tribe that wants to eliminate Lin Sun this time. Someone said indifferently. Report. The experts of Yuan sect have arrived. A thunderous voice came from afar. At that moment, everyone stopped talking and looked over in unison. Fang Daoping and Yuan Shiliu were in front, followed by Lin Sun and the other 4 participants. They all rushed over. I'm Zhu Wenheng. Greetings, friends of Yuan sect. Deity? Zhu Wenheng stepped forward in front of the hall and greeted them with a smile. After exchanging greetings, Lin Sun and the others were arranged to the seats on the side of the hall. After Lin Sun, Yuan Changtian, and the others took their seats, they became the focus of attention. When these witchcraft experts looked at Yuan Changtian, they restrained themselves and dared not be so presumptuous. Obviously, they knew that Yuan Changtian came from the ninth heaven and had a special identity. But when they looked at Lin Sun, Li Zhen, Chao Beidu, and Yun Tianming, they no longer restrained themselves. Instead, they became unscrupulous and judgmental. Especially when they looked at Lin Sun, many of them were filled with undisguised murderous intent. This was the style of witchcraft experts. They didn't respect heaven and earth, feared ghosts and gods, and didn't abide by etiquette. Therefore, they didn't hide their views on their enemies. In this regard, Lin Sun didn't care. Although this was the territory of the ancestral court of the witchcraft cult, they were here on behalf of the Yuan cult. No matter how impudent these witchcraft cult powerhouses were, they would not dare to do anything too outrageous. Brother Lin, look. That's Tsang Fufeng. Suddenly, the voice of Changtian of the origin rang in Lin Sun's ears. Following his gaze, Lin Sun saw God. 5 experts from the voodoo cult were sitting on the seats next to the hall. These 5 were the cultivators of the sorcerer cult who were going to participate in the eternal law battle. There were 4 men and 1 woman, and all of them had terrifying auras. Tsang Fufeng, who Yuan Changtian had mentioned, was sitting on the first seat on the left. He was dressed in a black robe and his skin was fair. His long gray hair fell to his waist, and his handsome features were cold and stern. When Tsang Fufeng noticed Lin Sun's gaze, he raised his head slightly and saw that Lin Sun's eyes were like dazzling fire gems, surging with terrifying flames that seemed to be able to burn the sky. If it was any other person, they would probably be intimidated and terrified after being stared at like this. But Lin Sun remained calm. Tsang Fufeng's lips curled up inexplicably, and he looked away. Yuan Changtian, who had seen everything, asked, "How is it? Brother Lin, do you have the confidence to deal with the divine child of the Tsang clan?" Lin Sun replied without batting an eyelid, "Only someone like Brother Yuan can suppress such a powerful character." Yuan Changtian was startled, but he smiled and did not say anything else. Suddenly, a man who was sitting next to Tsang Fufeng stood up and walked straight towards Lin Sun. His skin was dark and his bones were thick. When he walked, he moved like a moving mountain, giving off an extremely ferocious aura. Huoshao. He was one of the 5 cultivators representing the voodoo cult in the eternal law battle. He was a Nirvana God perfection stage cultivator, and he was an elder of the combat division. When he walked towards Lin Sun, many people could not help but look at him. "You're the one who defeated Xing Jun?" Huoshao stood in front of Lin Sun and spoke in a condescending manner. "That's right." Lin Sun picked up his wine gourd and drank. Huoshao grinned, revealing his white teeth, and said, "The eternal law battle hasn't started yet. Why don't you and I have a fight? I promise I won't beat you to death." The crowd became restless. Chao Beidu and Yun Tianming looked at each other, gloating inwardly. Before the eternal law battle had even started, someone had come to Lin Sun in a threatening manner. This showed how hateful Lin Sun was. In the distance, the bigwigs of the voodoo cult looked at the scene with a smile, but they did not stop Lin Sun. Yuan Changtian's eyes flickered, but he remained silent. Yuan Shiliu did not pay any attention to Lin Sun. Fang Daoping, on the other hand, frowned. Lin Sun put away his wine gourd, stood up, and looked around. Finally, he looked at Huoshao with a smile and said, "Well, you choose a place. I promise I won't let you lose too badly. After all, this is the territory of the voodoo cult." The crowd was in an uproar. No one had expected Lin Sun to agree without hesitation. Even Yuan Changtian, Chao Beidu, and Yun Tianming were stunned. They could not imagine why Lin Sun could not stand the provocation and directly agreed. Fang Daoping wanted to say something, but he could only smile bitterly. Since Lin Sun had agreed, It would make Yuan cult look guilty if he tried to dissuade Lin Sun. Even Hua Xiao himself was stunned for a moment, and then he said with a grim smile, "Since we are going to fight, let's do it here? Near the main hall is fine." Wait. Suddenly, Zhu Wenheng in the distance said coldly, "Hua Xiao, no matter how anxious you are to fight, you have to save some face for our friends of Yuan cult. The eternal law battle is about to start. If you really have the ability, you should go to the 10 Directions Devil territory and see what your opponents are capable of." Hua Xiao was obviously unwilling to give up. "Your Excellency, it won't take long to deal with this man," Zhu Wenheng interrupted. "I told you to leave." Hua Xiao curled his lips helplessly, then pointed at Lin Sun and said, "Wait and see." Then he turned around and left. "I agreed to fight, but you chickened out and asked me to wait." Lin Sun smiled, shook his head, and sat down again. But his expression and words were full of sarcasm, which made Hua Xiao's face darken, and his eyes were full of killing intent. The other powerhouses of which cult also frowned, wondering why Zhu Wenheng didn't let Hua Xiao teach Lin Sun a lesson at this time. Seeing this, Chao Beidu and Yun Tianming couldn't help but feel disappointed. Which cult had always been arrogant and unscrupulous? Why did they give in? Report. The powerhouses of Zen cult are coming. A thunderous voice resounded through the world. Invite them in, Zhu Wenheng said. Soon, under the sky far away, a cloud appeared, filled with the light of Buddha and the sound of Sanskrit. Many figures stood on it, looking sacred and solemn. The powerhouses of Zen cult's ancestral court. The leader was Buddha Kasyapa. Kasyapa had appeared at the 9 Peaks discussion of Yuan cult, so Lin Sun was very familiar with him. Behind Kasyapa stood 5 figures. 4 monks and a blue-robed man. The 4 monks were Buddha Lord Ku Xian, Buddha Lord Ku Ji, Buddha Lord Juewen, and Buddha Lord Juezhen. The position of Buddha Lord in Zen cult's ancestral court was equivalent to the elders of the 3 pavilions of Yuan cult and the 3 departments of which cult. Another man in blue was as thin as a pine tree. His long black hair was coiled into a bun, and he looked clean and handsome. There was a commotion in the field when they saw him. When Xiaoshui, the divine son of Wen clan, was as calm as a mountain and as tough as a rock. Yuan Changtian and Tsang Fufeng also noticed Wen Xiaoshui. Their expressions were calm, but no one could tell what they were thinking. When the people of Zen cult's ancestral court arrived, they were arranged to sit next to the people of Yuan cult's ancestral court. Taoism Pier Fong, we meet again, Buddha Kasyapa said with a smile. Fong Daoping nodded and didn't say much. Lin Sun, my young friend, you are more elegant than before. Kasyapa looked at Lin Sun. Senior, you flatter me. Lin Sun cupped his hands. Kasyapa smiled and said to the people around him, Everyone, this is Lin Sun, the successor of Yuan cult. Yu Fengzi, the Arhat, was defeated by Lin Sun at the 9 Peaks discussion. His words were casual and no emotion could be heard. Nice to meet you. Ku Xian and the others saluted one by one. Lin Sun naturally returned the salute to them one by one, not to hit a smiling face. Only when Xiaoshui nodded. The atmosphere was subtle. Everyone could see that the overmatches of the Zen church were obviously against Lin Sun, but they greeted each other calmly without showing any emotion. Of course, no one would expose this. Chao Beidu and Yun Tianming, who had been watching coldly, were sure that if these monks met Lin Sun after entering the 10 Directions Devil territory, they would immediately turn into angry bodhisattvas and attack Lin Sun. The reason was very simple. Yu Fengzi, the Arhat, was once defeated by Lin Sun. This was an irreconcilable feud. Not long after, another voice came from heaven and earth. Report. The overmatches of the spirit cult have arrived. In an instant, the experts from the Shaman sect, Zen sect, and Origin sect stopped talking and looked into the distance. It was not because there was anything special about the spirit cult. It's because one of the 5 participants sent by the ancestral court of the spirit church this time is a goddess from the 9th heaven. Lin Sun was keenly aware that Yuan Changtian, who had always been shrewd, seemed to be a little excited at this moment. There was expectation in his eyes, but also a subtle fear. Soon, a dazzling divine rainbow appeared in the distant sky. The leader was also a face that Lin Sun was familiar with. Spiritual Elder Qin Yun. The position of Yuan Venerate of the Spirit Cult was comparable to the Deputy Pavilion Master of the Yuan Cult, the Supreme Buddha of the Zen Cult, and the Earth Priest of the Witch Cult. Behind Spiritual Elder Qin Yun were 5 participants, 4 men and 1 woman. But when they arrived, only the woman became the focus of everyone's attention. Her figure was extremely tall, slender, and elegant. She was dressed in a loose and simple black robe, and her long, jet-black hair was coiled up by a green hairpin, revealing a fair and beautiful face. Her beauty was like an orchid in an empty valley, tranquil and aloof from the world. Ji Shanhai. She had the reputation of being the most beautiful and pure in the world, and was regarded as the pearl of the Ji divine clan. In the 9th heaven, many eternal realm powerhouses had heard of her name. P.S. Around 7:30 p.m. Also, there will be an extra update tonight. Chapter 2932. Ji Shanhai. When the woman appeared, Yuan Changtian, Song Fufeng, and Wen Xiaoshui all stood up and greeted her. Greetings, Miss Shanhai. I didn't expect you to really come. Miss Shanhai, long time no see. 3 divine princes from different clans of the 9th heaven went to greet her together, which made the crowd even more excited. Lin Sun couldn't help but be surprised. From this scene, it could be seen how extraordinary Ji Shanhai's identity was. Apart from that, this woman's charm was extraordinary, and her appearance was also extremely outstanding. It was no wonder that she was so sought after. But Lin Sun's surprise only lasted for a moment, and he quickly looked away. When he saw Jingzongyi's figure, Lin Sun immediately smiled. He had only met Jingzongyu once. It was during the game of chess in the ancient Desolation Realm, when Jing Zhongyue and a group of senior brothers and sisters fought against the forces under the command of Venerable Emperor Nameless. Now Jingzongyu was already a peak nirvana god. His skin was wheat-colored, his figure was thin and strong, and his eyes were deep. His long black hair was tied behind his head, revealing an angular and firm face. When he saw Lin Sun, Jingzongyu also smiled and said, "Junior brother, in this immortal law battle, why don't we compete to see who can kill more order wild beasts? Why not?" Lin Sun raised his eyebrows and said, "Senior brother, I heard that you are unique in archery. I have been wanting to see it for a long time." Jingzongyu smiled. While talking, he had already sat down with the people of the Spirit Sect's ancestral court, and Ji Shanhai was still the one who attracted the most attention. But she seemed to have long been used to this kind of attention. After sitting down, she took out a scroll and started reading. She was quiet, and her otherworldly charm seemed incompatible with this world. Fang Daoping said, "Brother Zhu, the participants of the 4 ancestral courts are all here. Should we go to the 10-demon region immediately?" Zhui smiled and said, "Brother Fang, don't be impatient. This immortal law battle is different from the past. There are some other people participating." As soon as he said this, Fang Daoping and the others, Zen Sect's Kasayapa and the Spirit Sect's Qin Yun and the others were stunned. Obviously, they didn't know there was such a situation. Zhu Wen said, looking at the time, "They should be here soon." Just as he said this, in the distance, a voice that was transmitting a message rang out. "Report. The powerhouses of the top 10 immortal emperor clans of the 8th heaven have arrived together." His voice reverberated throughout the world. Fang Daoping furrowed his brows. He did not expect that the witchcraft ancestral court would involve the 10 great immortal overlords. Chao Beidu and Yun Tianming were surprised as well, but they couldn't conceal the happiness between their brows. 10 undying giants. Who didn't hate Lin Sun's guts? Which one of them didn't want to completely eradicate the successor of Mount Fangsuan? If the 10 immortal giants were to join the immortal Dao battle, how could Lin Sun possibly survive? At this moment, even the usually silent Li Jun could not stand it anymore. She transmitted her voice to Lin Sun. The sorcerer cult's arrangement is obviously intentional. They want to unite all forces to target you. No, they're not only targeting me, they're also targeting my senior brother, Moon in the Well. Lin Sun's expression was calm. The more it's like this, the more it proves that they can't wait any longer. If they don't kill me this time, I'm afraid they won't find another chance in the future. He knew very well that not to mention the 10 eternal great leaders, the Shaman sect, and the Zen sect, merely Yuan Changtian, Chao Beidu Yun Tianming, and the others by his side would probably not be willing to see him return to the Yuan sect alive. However, Lin Sun did not care. Ear-piercing sounds resounded from afar. The 10 immortal magnates had arrived. Each immortal magnates had sent a transcendent realm great perfection existence to lead 5 participants. Adding up to a total of 60 people, it was truly an advantage in numbers. The 10 immortal giants were the Wang clan, Dongwang clan, Fu clan, Zhongli clan, Qi clan, Mu clan, Qi clan, Zhu clan, Jing clan, and Zhong clan. Many years ago, Lin Sun had fought against the Dongwang clan, Fu clan, Zhongli clan, Qi clan, Mu clan, Qi clan, Zhu clan, Jing clan, and Zhong clan. As for the Wang clan's Sword of Judgment, it had severely injured Kong Ju outside the god's relic. Lin Sun hated it to the core. As for the Qi clan, Zhu clan, Jing clan, and Zhong clan's elites, Lin Sun had already fought against them during the 9 Peaks Dao discussion. It could be said that among the 10 immortal giants, none of them were Lin Sun's enemies. When they arrived, Zhu Wenheng instantly smiled. The participants are all here. Everyone, please follow me to the 10 demonic territory. As he finished speaking, he led the way and teleported through the void. Yuan clan, Zen cult, witchcraft cult, and the 10 immortal giants followed closely behind. This time, you have to be careful in the 10 directions demon domain, especially the Wang family. I suspect that the participants of the 10 immortal factions will follow the Wang family's lead. If they encounter you, they will definitely not let go of the opportunity to kill you. Along the way, Fang Daoping quickly transmitted his voice to Lin Sun, reminding him. Lin Sun listened quietly. He was not afraid of it. Instead, an indescribable desire surged within him. Other than the spiritual cult, almost all of the forces participating in the immortal Tao battle were his enemies. To him, wasn't this the best opportunity to kill his enemies? It was better to have no enemies than to have many enemies. Brother Lin, if you're willing, I'd be happy to let you come with me. We can take care of each other. On the way, Yuan Changtian suddenly transmitted his voice to Lin Sun. Obviously, he also realized that Lin Sun's situation would become extremely bad after entering the 10 demonic territory. No need. It's better to act separately. I don't want Elder Yuan to be implicated because of me. If so, I would be a sinner of our sect. Lin Sun casually refused. Yuan Changtian smiled and said, Anyway, after entering the 10 demonic territory, if Brother Lin needs help, you can come to me at any time. Lin Sun glanced at him and said, If Elder Yuan needs help, I won't just stand by. Yuan Changtian chuckled and did not say anything else. Meanwhile, Lin Sun began to think about what to do after entering the 10 demonic territory. The 10 demonic territory was an extremely special and vast world. It was rumored that the order power of many eras was buried in it. This world was divided into 10 regions. They were the East, South, West, North, Southeast, Northeast, Southwest, and Northwest demonic territory, as well as the Earth demonic territory and the Heavenly demonic territory in the center. That was why it was called the 10 demonic territory. Participants who entered the 10 demonic territory would be moved to any region in the 8 demonic territories. Only after 9 years could they pass through the barrier and enter the Earth demonic territory. After fighting in the Earth demonic territory for a year, they could reach the Heavenly demonic territory. For example, if Lin Sun entered the Eastern Demonic Territory, it would take him 9 years to enter the Earth Demonic Territory, and 1 year to enter the Heavenly Demonic Territory. The reason was that the Earth Demonic Territory and the Heavenly Demonic Territory were extremely special, and the great opportunities in the 10 Demonic Territory were often hidden in these 2 territories. Half a quarter later, in the depths of the starry sky outside the Witch Realm, Zhu Wei, who arrived first, took out a golden animal bone and flew away. Boom! In the depths of the starry sky, there was a violent spatial ripple, and then an invisible vortex portal emerged from the ripple. This was the entrance to the 10 Demonic Territory. 10 years later, all the surviving participants would also return from the dark abyss. This time, it's the Yuan clan's turn to enter first. Zhu Wei said, "Brother Fang, let the Yuan clan's participants enter together." Fang Daoping nodded and glanced at Lin Sun and the others. "No matter what the final ranking is, I only hope that you can return safely. Go." Lin Sun and the others cupped their hands and flew toward the vortex portal, their figures quickly disappearing. "Next, it's the Zen clan's turn," Zhu Wei said. In the following time, the major forces entered the vortex portal one after another. The vortex door also quietly closed up and disappeared. In this part of the starry sky, only Fang Daoping, Zhu Wenheng, Buddhist Supreme Kasayapa, Spiritual Elder Qingyun, and the leaders of the 10 immortal giants remained. "Everyone, this undying Dao battle will last for 10 years. Why don't you all come to my witch clan to drink and discuss?" Zhu Wei suggested. "Since it's to drink and discuss, there's no need for the trouble. We can do it here in the starry sky." Spiritual Elder Qingyun smiled. "Sure." Fang Daoping nodded. The others naturally had no objections. Immediately, these important figures sat cross-legged in the void, using the starry sky as a screen, drinking and chatting. On the surface, it seemed like they were having a good time. The world was vast and boundless. Buzz. Eastern Demon Region. In an ancient city that had stood for countless years, a ripple appeared in the void. Then, Lin Sun, Yuan Changtian, Chao Beidu Yun Tianming, and Li Zhen appeared out of thin air. Immediately, the 5 of them felt an oppressive aura wash over them. It was a heterogeneous aura pervading the void, filled with chaotic order energy. Mixed with the wind, it felt like knives when it blew on one's body. If cultivators below the undying Tao path were here, they would probably not be able to withstand the invasion of such power. It's just as the rumors say. There's too much order energy buried in this 10-demon region. As a result, the aura of heaven and earth has become violent and heterogeneous, filled with chaotic order energy. Unfortunately, this order energy can't be refined, so it's of no value to us. Yuan Changtian looked around and sighed with emotion. It was the first time for them to come here. Although they had already learned a lot about the 10-demon region, they still couldn't help but be awestruck when they came to this dangerous world. This place is called East City. It's the core of the Eastern Demon region. "I'm afraid we'll have to spend the next 9 years here," Chao Beidu said softly. "That's not necessarily true. Apart from the Sky Demon region and the Earth Demon region, we can also go to the other 7 demon regions to hunt for wild beasts of order during these 9 years. Naturally, participants from other forces will appear in the Eastern Demon region at any time." Speaking of this, Yuan Changtian looked at Lin Sun. "Brother Lin, do you want to stay in the Eastern Demon region or go to other regions?" Chapter 29:33. Lin Sun shook his head. "It's hard to say." Yuan Changtian seemed to understand. He smiled. "You're right. We've just arrived at the 10th Devil Territory and are not familiar with the situation here. It's no use thinking about it now." After a pause, he continued, "However, I've decided to stay in the Eastern Devil Territory. In the coming days, I'll use this city as my stronghold, even if I have to hunt wild beasts of order." "We have the same idea, Elder Yuan," Chao Beidu and Yun Tianming said without hesitation. Then, Chao Beidu looked at Lin Sun. Didn't Deacon Lin say that you wouldn't go with us because you're worried that we'll be implicated because of your troubles? You can leave now. Lin Sun gave Chao Beidu a deep look. Then I wish Elder Chao good luck in leaving the 10th Devil territory alive. With that, he turned around and left. Li Zhen, who had been silent all this time, followed closely behind. Yuan Changtian sighed softly as he watched them go further and further away. It seems that there's no chance for me and him to become friends. Since leaving the primordial realm, he had expressed his goodwill to Lin Sun more than once. But it was clear that Lin Sun had no intention of befriending him. He was either a friend or an enemy. Chao Beidu said, Elder Yuan, this guy is dead meat. We must not get involved with him. We must draw a clear line between us. Yuan Changtian shook his head. If he's in trouble, I'll still help him. Chao Beidu and Yun Tianming looked at each other in confusion. Yuan Changtian said indifferently, Lin Sun owes you a life-saving debt. How can he not repay it in the future? Unless I'm wrong about him. Chao Beidu and Yun Tianming finally understood. The hardest thing to repay in this world was a favor. How could Lin Sun not repay it? Chao Beidu and Yun Tianming hated Lin Sun, but they had to admit that if Lin Sun owed them a favor, he would definitely repay it. This was Lin Sun's reputation and prestige. Even if he was an enemy, he had to acknowledge it. The two of you, the competition of the immortal Tao battle has begun. Since you're willing to follow me, it's best if you listen to my orders for a period of time. Yuan Changtian said indifferently. At this moment, his aura changed abruptly and was filled with a majestic aura. Chao Beidu and the other man's expressions turned solemn. They cupped their fists and said, We will obey your orders. Outside Dongqing, wind and sand swept across the boundless world. Noticing that Li Zhen had caught up with him, Lin Sun couldn't help but apologize. Senior, I'm sorry to let you suffer with me. A wisp of a smile appeared on Li Zhen's cold and resolute face. He said, I'm the one who feels wronged if I follow them. There's no need for you to say anything more. I'll leave the rest to you. Lin Sun felt warm in his heart and said, Senior, there will be many dangers in the following time, but I can assure you that we will be able to leave the 10 Directions demon territory alive. After some thought, he said firmly, Not only must we leave alive, but we must also return with a full load. Li Zhen said, Survive first, then we can talk about the future. Senior is right. Lin Sun burst out laughing. Whoosh! Suddenly, a wisp of purple flame swept out of the ground and shot towards Lin Sun like lightning. It was incredibly fast. Be careful! Li Zhen warned and was about to attack. Lin Sun waved his sleeves. Boom! The wisp of purple flame collapsed and disappeared. Then, Lin Sun patted the ground with his palm. With a roar, the ground was broken and the soil splashed. A purple shadow was exposed to Lin Sun's field of vision dozens of meters below. It was a fierce beast shaped like a pangolin. Its whole body was burning with purple flame, and its back was covered with dense barbs like swords. Whoosh! 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 The ferocious beast seemed to have sensed danger. Its back suddenly arched, and the dense barbs on its back shot out explosively like a purple rain of arrows. Wherever it passed, the void was melted, and the harsh whistling resounded through the world. The power of this blow was not weaker than the power of Nirvana realm. But Lin Sun stretched out his hand and grabbed. Boom! A deep whirlpool emerged, and the law flowed, sweeping away the purple barbs all over the sky and wiping them out one by one. Whoosh! The fierce beast wanted to escape from the depths of the ground at the first moment. But it was a step too late. A big hand appeared and directly grabbed it and picked it up. This series of actions was completed almost in a flash. Seeing that the beast was captured by Lin Sun, Li Zhen's eyes were filled with a touch of admiration, and she said, This beast is full of the power of the 5th level of the Earth rank. Among the wild beasts of order, it is not strong, but without the cultivation of Nirvana realm, one is definitely no match for it. In the 10 directions demon territory, the wild beasts of order could be divided into 3 kinds. One kind was the wild beasts of the earth rank, which possessed the power of order within the 9th level of the earth rank. In the 8 directions demon territory, this kind of wild beasts of order were the most common. They would even form a terrible beast tide and wreak havoc between heaven and earth. In that case, even those in the great completion of Nirvana realm had to avoid them. The other kind was the wild beast of the heaven rank, which possessed the power of order within the 9th level of the heaven rank, which was rare in the 8 directions demon territory. The higher the rank, the more powerful the wild beast was. Naturally, the number of wild beasts in the 8 directions demon territory was less and less. Bang! Lin soon exerted strength in his palm, and the body of the wild beast of order exploded, leaving only a purple flame-like power of order surging in Lin Sun's palm. After looking at it for a while, Lin Sun said, "This 6th level of the earth rank is somewhat incomplete and incomplete. It is impossible for practitioners to comprehend the complete law of immortality from it." This also meant that this power of order could not support an immortal emperor clan. But for us, it is the most precious cultivation resource. Li Zhen sighed with emotion. Although he was in the great completion of Nirvana realm, only he knew how much effort and time he had put in to find the power of order that could be refined from the moment he stepped into the Nirvana realm until now. Even in the Yuan sect, not everyone could use the power of order as a medicinal pill to cultivate, because such a treasure was too rare and precious. Lin Sun said, "Senior, from today on, we will share the power of order that we hunt." Li Zhen shook his head and refused. "I have already reached the peak of this realm. Ordinary power of order is already useless to me. But you, on the other hand, lack this treasure the most." As he spoke, he picked up the beast bone left by the wild beast of order from the ground and put it away. This is the proof of hunting the wild beast of order. The ranking of the 4 ancestral courts will be determined by the number of these proofs at the last moment. Lin Sun did not refuse anymore and put the 6th level of the earth rank into the abyssal sword cauldron. Boom! Instantly, the Nirvana realm? The order would refine this earth rank 6 order and turn it into the purest order origin energy. Wu Shuang, keep it well. Don't eat it secretly. Lin Sun warned her through voice transmission. Wu Shuang, who was in the abyssal sword cauldron, stuck out her tongue and said obediently, "Don't worry, Master. Wu Shuang will not delay Master's cultivation plan. Senior, I plan to find a place to settle down and use it as a stronghold. Then, I will plan to hunt more wild beasts of order." Lin Sun said in a low voice. "I said, you can make the decision," Li Zhen said. Lin Sun was speechless. He nodded and walked forward. He had carefully studied the information about the 10 demon territories. Apart from the Earth demon territory and the Sky demon territory, the other 8 demon territories were extremely vast. They were like 8 macro worlds, but they were connected to each other. The Earth demon territory and the Sky demon territory were the most special. 9 years later, the world barrier between the 8 demon territories and the Earth demon territory would disappear. At that time, all the participants would be able to enter. The world barrier between the Earth demon territory and the Sky demon territory would open a year later, and it would only be open for 3 months. In this way, the entire Immortal Tao battle would last more than 10 years. Now that Lin Sun and the others had just entered the 10 demon territories, it meant that in the next 9 years, the major forces participating in the Immortal Tao battle could only practice and compete in the 8 demon territories. Naturally, they could not stay in just one demon territory. Therefore, it could be inferred that the greatest danger was not the wild beasts of order, but the enemies of the other major forces. Lin Sun was not afraid of anything in this regard. His top priority was to find a stronghold to hunt more wild beasts of order. The more power of order he collected, the better. He was different from the others. As long as he collected the power of order, the Nirvana God order could refine it into the purest power source of order. This also meant that he did not need to spend time refining the power of order. He could use it as a miracle pill to improve his cultivation. If it were other cultivators, not only would they have to subdue the power of order, but they would also have to spend time and effort refining it. Naturally, they could not compare to Lin Sun. Whoosh, whoosh. Lin Sun and Li Zhen teleported in the boundless world. They were not fast, and the mountains and rivers under their feet were like flickering shadows. Along the way, the two of them noticed the figures of the wild beasts of order. There were at least one, and at most 3 to 5 of them. They were not powerful, and they were all killed by the two of them. What they obtained were some Earth-grade order. The highest grade was only Earth-grade 7. Moreover, almost all of these order powers were incomplete and flawed, not complete. If a celestial longevity realm practitioner comprehended the power of order and used it to refine the law of immortality, he was destined to walk a dead end. Not only would the power he could control be limited, but he would also not have any hope of breaking through to the Nirvana God realm. In short, only a complete power of order could support an immortal emperor clan. Only then was it suitable for celestial longevity realm practitioners to cultivate. However, the incomplete power of order was a rare supplement for Nirvana God realm practitioners. It had amazing benefits in improving their cultivation. The power of order they collected along the way was also absorbed by Lin Sun into the abyssal sword cauldron. Nirvana God order was refined and handed over to Wushuang for safekeeping. 4 hours later, a black mountain with undulating undulations came into Lin Sun's vision. Senior, this should be the 1,000 Gully mountain range of the eastern demon region. It is also one of the 3 most dangerous places in this region. Lin Sun's eyes lit up. Rumor has it that there are many heaven-grade wild beasts here. P.S. More updates and sent over. The monthly votes ranking is about to be overtaken again. Do you still have monthly votes? Chapter 2934. The Wanha Mountain Range. It was said that the mountain range was millions of miles wide, with many abysses and ravines. It was one of the birthplaces of the wild beasts of order in the 10 magic territory. In the past Immortal Tau battles, the participants often formed groups before they dared to go deep into the savage mountain range for training. The reason was that there were wild beasts of heaven level in the mountain range. For Nirvana realm experts, Earth-level wild beasts were not much of a threat, but it was different for heaven-level wild beasts. These wild beasts mastered the power of the Order of Heaven level, and were ferocious enough to threaten the lives of Nirvana realm experts. However, for Lin Sun, the Wanha mountain range was an excellent place for training. The rules of heaven and earth in the 10 magic territory were very special. The reason why this world could bury the power of order of many eras was that the rules of heaven and earth had an amazing bearing and remodeling power. Mountains and rivers might be destroyed in a snap of a finger, but they would recover in just a few days. If it wasn't for that, then even if a place of great danger like Myriad Valley mountain range covered an area of 500,000 kilometers, it would probably be unable to completely survive the numerous eternal Tao battles of the past. In fact, it was the same for the wild beasts of order in the 10 magic territory. Every 3,000 years, the mountains and rivers in the 10 magic territory would undergo great changes, and many wild beasts of order would be born. It was like the rotation of the 4 seasons. Just like now, the Wanha mountain range that Lin Sun saw now was completely different from the Wanha mountain range in the past. It was as if the entire 10 magic territory had been evolving and evolving. It was incredible. However, Lin Sun did not come to explore the mysteries of the rules of heaven and earth in the 10 magic territory. His purpose was simple: to hunt wild beasts, collect the power of order, and improve his cultivation. The mountain range stretched on endlessly, and the dusky mist covered the sky above the 1,000 Gully mountain range. Occasionally, the roars of beasts could be heard coming from the depths of the mountain range. The roars of the beasts were filled with malevolence and ice-cold energy, causing one to shudder. Clang! A dull black saber appeared in Li Zhen's hand. His aura also changed, and his tall figure emitted a murderous aura. He was about to enter the Wanha mountain range, so even an old monster of Nirvana realm dared not neglect it. Lin Sun stood in the void and was gazing at the general trend of the mountains and rivers. In the eyes of a Tao pattern master like him, the scenery of the Thousand Gully mountain range was completely different. From the direction of the mountain range, the changes in the airflow, and the phenomenon reflected by the group of mountains, one could often deduce many mysteries and profundities. After a while, "Senior, this way." Lin Sun set off in one direction. Li Zhen was startled and seemed to be very surprised. She couldn't help but say, "The baleful aura is surging in this direction. The order energy that fills heaven and earth is extremely violent and far surpasses the other directions. With a single glance, I can tell that it's a barren land, filled with killing intent, and filled with unfathomable dangers." He was reminding Lin Sun. Lin Sun said casually, "The more ominous a place is, the more likely it is to be able to hunt heaven-rank beasts. Don't worry, Senior. I know what I'm doing." Li Zhen stopped trying to persuade him. As early as when he was in the Yuan sect, Lin Sun had always been known for his tyrannical behavior and courage, which no one dared to do. But perhaps it was because of this that he became who he was today. Boom, boom, boom. The two of them entered the Thousand Ravine mountain range. Not long after they teleported forward, they arrived at the depths of a pitch-black mountain range. The baleful aura surged, and a series of earth-shattering roars came from it. The mountains and rivers there seemed to be shaking. Following that, pairs of ice-cold eyes opened in the rolling baleful aura. Some were scarlet red, some were dark green, some were as brilliant as the sun, and some were as white as silver. There were hundreds of them densely packed together. At the same time, the terrifying and mixed order energy swept through heaven and earth like a landslide and a tsunami. The violent killing intent that suffused it alarmed the wind and clouds in all directions. "Beast horde! Retreat!" Li Zhen's expression changed slightly, and he wanted to retreat immediately. Unexpectedly, not only did Lin Sun not retreat, but his fighting spirit surged. His eyes lit up as he said, "Senior, you just need to watch." As he spoke, he charged forward. An immortal divine halo surged out of his tall figure, and there was an incomparably magnificent will within it. It made him look like a demon. Li Zhen was stunned at first, and then the corners of his mouth twitched violently. "This kid, boom!" The churning fog in the distance suddenly exploded. Wild beasts of order charged out one after another. Some of them were as huge as mountains and their bodies were covered in cold, scarlet scales. Some of them had bone wings and were surrounded by lightning. Some of them looked like lions and tigers that could control wind and fire. Some of them, as soon as the hundreds of order wild beasts appeared, they rushed towards Lin Sun with overwhelming momentum. The power emitted by each of them was so terrifying that it made the hearts of Nirvana realm practitioners tremble. But Lin Sun did not retreat, and instead, he took out the abyssal sword cauldron. Buzz! Wisps of sparkling and translucent aura of time mixed with hundreds of millions of rays of light flowed out of the abyssal sword cauldron. At that moment, the mountains and rivers seemed to be illuminated. Li Zhen could not help but be amazed. Clang! Following that, a passionate and clear sword cry resounded through the world. A Taoist sword suddenly swept out of the abyssal sword cauldron and swept across the void. The world seemed to be at a standstill, forming a moment of stagnation. The figures of the hundreds of order wild beasts crowded the sky and earth, like a picture on a still picture. And as the sword swept across, boom! The still and picturesque world seemed to have been torn apart. The wild beasts of order that filled it were like weeds being crushed by an iron plow. One by one, they were mercilessly crushed and their bodies exploded. Severed limbs flew in all directions and blood sprayed out like a waterfall. The scarlet blood was like ink that dyed the world red. Bang! Bang! The deafening and dense sounds also rang through the field like firecrackers, soul-stirring. In a flash, the wild beasts suffered a heavy blow. The bloody scene of death was like a sudden firework blooming in front of Li Zhen's eyes, causing his pupils to shrink and his heart to tremble violently. An irrepressible shock appeared on his resolute and stern face. Was this the power of an early Nirvana realm practitioner? At this moment, Lin Sun's sword almost subverted Li Zhen's understanding. 9 years ago, Li Zhen had witnessed the battle between Lin Sun and Zhong Lizhe, the first deacon of Yuankong Pavilion. At that time, Lin Sun's combat strength was already heaven-defying. But compared to today, Lin Sun's combat strength was completely different. What on earth happened to this boy during the 9 years of confinement? Li Zhen was puzzled. At this moment, Lin Sun only felt refreshed and his blood was boiling. In the past 9 years, he had exhausted all his efforts and energy to refine the divine magnetic iron with the time seal and tempered the power of time into the abyssal sword cauldron. This was the first time he used the abyssal sword cauldron that had been reborn. One word, powerful. The power of time carried by the abyssal sword cauldron was so terrible that it was completely beyond Lin Sun's expectation when it was released with the abyssal sword cauldron. When the abyssal sword cauldron was used with the power of sword Tao, it meant that it could confine and kill the opponent at the same time. At this moment, he could simultaneously confine and kill the opponent. In short, he could seize the moment to kill the enemy. Just like before, if Lin Sun fought against hundreds of order wild beasts with his own cultivation, he would probably fall into a fierce and bloody battle. But now it was completely different. Under this sword, at least 30 wild beasts of order were killed on the spot, and the other wild beasts of order were also injured. Many of them were seriously injured. Roar! An angry roar sounded. The remaining wild beasts of order charged at Lin Sun in a frenzy. Their numbers were still huge, and their power was terrifying. But Lin Sun didn't want to fight them head-on. He used the same trick again, combining the abyssal sword cauldron with the abyssal sword cauldron and the abyssal sword cauldron. With his current cultivation, it was enough for him to use the abyssal sword cauldron 10 times. Now that he used it for the second time, it only consumed about 20% of his strength. Boom! A familiar scene played out. The bloody massacre was reflected in the world again. This time, more than 50 wild beasts of order were killed. The reason was that they were seriously injured in the first attack, and couldn't resist the second attack at all. Blood rained down, and the roars of the beasts shook the sky. The mountains and rivers were in a mess. The remaining 20 wild beasts of order were also badly injured, as if they really felt the fear of death, and began to flee in all directions. This time, Lin Sun didn't use the power of the abyssal sword cauldron. Those wild beasts of order were already injured and scared out of their wits. To Lin Sun, they were simply a flock of lambs waiting to be slaughtered. How could he allow them to escape just like that? He used all 5 of his doppelgangers to chase after these wild beasts of order. Li Zhen, who was shocked to the core, reacted immediately. He moved to the void and began to fight. After a while, except for the 5 wild beasts of order that escaped, a total of 99 wild beasts of order were killed on the spot. The mountains and rivers were dyed red with blood, collapsing and withering. Looking at such a scene, Li Zhen couldn't help but be absent-minded. He was in the great perfection of the Nirvana realm and had lived for countless years. If he were to face such a herd of beasts, he would definitely avoid it and retreat immediately. But Lin Sun didn't do so. In less than 15 minutes, hundreds of wild beasts were defeated by him, and the mountains and rivers were littered with their corpses. If he didn't see it with his own eyes, Li Zhen wouldn't dare to believe that all this was real. At this time, on the battlefield, Lin Sun was collecting the remaining power of order. There was a joyful look on his face, like a hunter who had a great harvest. Li Zhen took a deep breath and suppressed the shock in his heart. He began to collect the remaining bones of wild beasts on the battlefield. These were the proof of killing the wild beasts of order. If this situation continues, in the end, the battle achievements of this kid alone will be able to surpass all the powerhouses who participated in this law battle, right? A thought emerged in Li Zhen's mind, and he was immediately shocked by it. It's a pity that these are all Earth rank power of order. The highest grade is only the 6th grade of the Earth rank, and the rest are mostly around the 3rd grade of the Earth rank. Not far away, Lin Sun had already collected all the power of order and was walking over. There was joy on his face, but there was also a hint of disappointment. Although the harvest was great, they were all low-grade power of order. Lin Sun couldn't help but feel a little regretful. The corner of Li Zhen's mouth twitched, and he didn't know whether to laugh or cry. If it were someone else who had obtained such a rich spoil of war, they would probably be overjoyed. Chapter 29:35. In this battle, Lin Sun obtained 99 pieces of order force. Just like before, these pieces of order force were damaged, as if there was no complete order force in the 10 Directions demon territory. However, Lin Sun was satisfied. After stuffing these pieces of order force into Abyssal Sword Cauldron, he looked into the distance and said, "Senior, let's go on. Don't you want to take a rest?" Li Zhen couldn't help asking. It's not too late to take a rest after finding a suitable place as a stronghold, Lin Sun said casually. Li Zhen could see that Lin Sun was very excited at this moment, like a hunter who went hunting in the mountains, full of ambition and expectation for his prey. "Anyway, it's better to be careful," Li Zhen reminded. Lin Sun nodded. Immediately, the two moved on. The Wanha mountain range was extremely vast, filled with mist, and the void was full of the aura of order. Lin Sun and Li Zhen didn't dare to be careless while moving forward. However, along the way they only encountered some groups of order wild beasts. They didn't encounter a large group like before. After traveling for tens of thousands of miles, Lin Sun suddenly stopped and his eyes fell on a gray mountain not far ahead. The aura of heaven-rank wild beasts. Li Zhen's eyes lit up. Yes, and there seems to be more than one. Lin Sun's eyes were faintly filled with excitement. The terrain of this mountain is excellent, easy to defend and difficult to attack. If we choose this place as a stronghold and set up a prohibition formation, we will have a foothold in the Eastern Demon Territory. 9 years. Whether it was to hunt wild beasts of order or to deal with enemies, he needed a stronghold where he could hide. If we fight, I'm afraid this place will be destroyed. Li Zhen muttered. That's easy. I'll lure them out, Lin Sun said quickly. His figure flashed, and Greenwood Taoist physique appeared out of thin air. He turned into a light and swept toward the gray mountain in the distance. Senior, let's leave here first. Lin Sun and Li Zhen retreated quietly. Roar! Before long, an earth-shaking roar came from the depths of the gray mountain, shaking the heaven and earth slightly. Then, Lin Sun's Greenwood Taoist physique swept out, followed by 3 fierce beasts. The strongest was a ferocious bird. Its wings were 300 meters long, and its entire body seemed to be made of silver. It had 3 heads, and its aura was cold and violent. Behind the bird was a ferocious beast that looked like a calf with pitch-black fur. Strange blue lightning arcs flowed on its body. At the very back was a humanoid ferocious beast. Its body was covered in bronze scales, and it had an ugly and ferocious head. The auras on the bodies of these 3 ferocious beasts spread out. Everywhere they passed, the heavens and the earth shook and the clouds collapsed. They seemed to be extremely formidable. It was about to catch up with Lin Sun's Greenwood Taoist body. Whoosh! A black beam of Tao light suddenly slashed down, and the domineering saber chi was wrapped in dazzling power of laws. Dang! The bird flapped its wings and actually managed to block the saber. Li Zhen snorted coldly and brandished his saber. Boom! Saber shadows filled the sky like a black curtain of night descending. dense and overbearing saber chi spread out and clashed with the ferocious bird. At the same time, Lin Sun's greenwood Taoist body turned around and charged toward the ferocious beast that was surrounded by blue lightning arc. As for the humanoid ferocious beast, it was targeted by Lin Sun himself and attacked. The battle broke out. This time, Lin Sun didn't use his talent, but fought fiercely with his own Taoism. It was also at this time that Lin Sun realized the terror of heaven-rank beasts of order. They mastered the heaven-rank beasts of order and were ferocious and tyrannical. When they released the mystery of the power of order, they were even more powerful than ordinary Nirvana realm practitioners. This brought a lot of pressure to Lin Sun, but it was not a threat. After a while, Li Zhen's battle ended first. The pair of silver wings of the ferocious bird were cut off, and its body was minced by the violent saber chi. Looking at Li Zhen, he was calm and unscathed. It was conceivable that as an elder of Yuanqing Pavilion, Li Zhen, who had Nirvana realm practitioners at the peak, was far from an ordinary practitioner of the same realm. His combat power was extremely fierce and domineering. Li Zhen looked at Lin Sun's battlefield and didn't help. How could he not see that Lin Sun was using his opponent to test his own combat power? He didn't use Taoist soldiers, nor did he use his talent, but he was able to fight a 4th-rank heaven-rank beast with Nirvana realm practitioners at the early stage. This kid is really abnormal, Li Zhen sighed in his heart. He knew that Lin Sun had the potential of an immortal supreme, and the path he pursued was different from anyone else in the world. He also knew that Lin Sun was the master of the square inch, a lotus that had been waiting for eternity, and he had the talent of devouring abyss. However, knowing was one thing. When he saw that Lin Sun, who was only at the early stage of Nirvana realm, displayed combat power that surpassed even those at the peak of Nirvana realm, Li Zhen still couldn't help but be shocked. Boom! Soon, the body of the humanoid ferocious beast exploded into pieces, smashed by a punch from Lin Sun himself. Almost at the same time, Lin Sun's greenwood Taoist body also succeeded and killed his opponent. Lin Sun withdrew his doppelgangers and let out a long breath. Then, he began to count his spoils of war. Of the 2 heaven-rank wild beasts he killed, one was a 4th-rank heaven-rank wild beast, and the other was a 3rd-rank heaven-rank wild beast. This was naturally a rare cultivation treasure, but what made Lin Sun speechless was that even heaven-rank wild beasts were damaged. This is for you. Li Zhen walked over and handed Lin Sun a 5th-rank heaven-rank wild beast that he had hunted. Lin Sun didn't stand on ceremony or refuse. He had already learned that for a peak of Nirvana realm practitioner like Li Zhen, ordinary order powers were indeed unable to satisfy Li Zhen's cultivation. Lin Sun had already made up his mind that if he could hunt a 9th-rank heaven-rank wild beast in the 10 demon territories this time, he would definitely hand it over to Li Zhen. The 2 of them didn't delay and returned along the path they came from. Soon, they arrived at the Grey Mountain. Senior, from today onwards, this will be our stronghold. Lin Sun was suddenly filled with pride. Li Zhen nodded. The Wanhe mountain range was one of the 3 most dangerous places in the eastern demon territories. With this place as their stronghold, they wouldn't have to worry about not being able to hunt order wild beasts for a period of time. Lin Sun started to get busy. A few days later, the entire Grey Mountain was covered with a layer of Tao pattern prohibition formation. The defense of this formation was very ordinary, but it could capture every movement within a 10,000-mile radius. To Lin Sun, this was the most useful thing. In the cave residence, Lin Sun sat cross-legged in meditation. The abyssal sword cauldron floated up and down. Wu Shuang's crisp voice came from within. Master, the 129 Earth-rank origin of order have completely fused together. There are a total of 3 heaven-rank origin of order. This kind of power can't be fused together. You can only refine them one by one. Alright, give me the Earth-rank origin of order first, Lin Sun said. Buzz. In the next moment, a fist-sized ball of light gushed out of the abyssal sword cauldron. It was bright and dazzling like a big sun, illuminating the entire room. The order origin power that was steaming within was surging like a vast ocean. Lin Sun took a deep breath, opened his mouth, and swallowed the ball of order origin into his body. In an instant, Lin Sun felt as if his body was about to explode. The surging and boiling order origin surged and roared like a wild horse. The power was too surging and enormous. Almost immediately, Lin Sun ran his chi with all his might to refine it. Ever since he stepped into the Nirvana God realm, his cultivation had stagnated at the early stage. His progress was so small that it was almost negligible. The reason was that there wasn't enough order origin energy for him to refine. But it was different now. There were countless order wild beasts in the 10 demon territories, which meant that he could collect an endless supply of order origin energy. At this moment, he was refining hundreds of order origins that had been fused together. Boom! His body rumbled like thunder. His body emitted a brilliant Taoist light, and the immortal divine halo revolved around him. As time went by, his stagnant cultivation began to improve at a speed visible to the naked eye. His progress was godly. Blackstone Desert, one of the 3 ominous lands of the eastern demon territories. Yuan Changtian, Chao Beidu and Yun Tianming were flying in it. Although the earth-rank wild beasts we've seen along the way aren't of much use to our cultivation, we can collect them and bring them back to help our friends and family. Chao Beidu said with a smile. He was in a good mood. After coming to the 10 demon territories, he realized that this place was like a natural treasure trove. There were countless order wild beasts here, and naturally, there was an endless supply of order origin energy. Although the order origin energy was incomplete, it was an excellent cultivation treasure for Nirvana God realm expert. Elder Chao's words are extremely true. Yun Tianming also smiled. According to the rules of the Immortal Tao battle, killing 10 Earth-rank wild beasts with order origin energy is only equivalent to killing 1 Earth-rank wild beast with order origin energy. So on and so forth, every higher rank of order origin energy of the wild beasts you kill will be worth 10 times the amount of battle merit. Yuan Changtian said casually, if that's the case, how much battle merit will you get for killing a heaven-rank wild beast? Chao Beidu was startled, then he said with a smile, Elder Yuan is right, but battle merits are not calculated like this. 10 years later, when the 4 Ancestral Hall's participants will be ranked, we just need to see who kills the most heaven grade 9 wild beasts to be ranked first. Yuan Changtian said, of course I know that. But what if we kill the same number of heaven rank wild beasts? Then we'll see who kills the most heaven-rank wild beast. Chao Beidu said without hesitation. Yuan Changtian smiled. If we continue like that, it'll be the same as what I said before. Of course, you're right. In 10 years' time, we only need to see who kills the most heaven-rank wild beast. Then, he suddenly turned his head and looked at Chao Beidu. What else did you do half an hour ago after you went after an earth-rank wild beast? Chao Beidu's pupils shrank. Yuan Changtian looked calm and said seriously, I don't want anyone to play tricks under my nose, and I don't like being deceived by people around me. Chao Beidu's body stiffened. After a while, he said in a low voice, to tell you the truth, I just told some people who want to know Lin Sun's whereabouts. I didn't mean to hide it from you, but I didn't want you to worry about such a trivial matter. P.S. More information will be added tonight. Chapter 2936. Yuan Changtian stared at Chao Beidu for a moment and said, Elder Chao, this is only the first day of entering the 10 Directions Devil Domain. Why are you so impatient? Chao Beidu's face stiffened as he said, when dealing with an enemy, we should eliminate him as soon as possible. Otherwise, with Lin Sun's foundation and combat power, his cultivation will definitely advance by leaps and bounds if he is allowed to collect enough power of order. I'm afraid it will be more and more difficult to kill him in the future. Yuan Changtian asked. With your cultivation base, how long will it take for you to refine a first-grade Earth rank sequence power? 3 days. What about the second grade of Earth class? 7 days. What about the 9th grade of the Earth class? About 2 months. Chao Beidu hesitated. Yuan Changtian asked, how long do you think it will take for Lin Sun to collect enough power of order to completely refine them? Chao Beidu was silent for a moment. Yuan Changtian let out a long sigh. He's a member of our Yuan sect. If he's still alive, he'll be able to hunt for more battle merits for us. It's the most beneficial thing for us. Wouldn't it be a pity if he were to die now? Chao Beidu lowered his head. He did not agree with Yuan Changtian, but he could not refute him. Forget it. Since you've already taken action, there's no turning back. Yuan Changtian said, tell me, who did you send the news to? Chao Beidu hurriedly said, experts from the 10 great undying forces. By relying on them? Yuan Changtian pondered for a moment before saying, let's go to the 1,000 Gully mountain range as well. Yun Tianming's eyes lit up. Elder Yuan, are you going to do it yourself? No, I'm going to save him when he's in trouble. After saying that, Yuan Changtian flew into the distance. Chao Beidu and Yun Tianming looked at each other and followed. 2 days later, Wang Juohuan silently gazed at the 10,000 Gully mountain range from afar. He wore a jade robe, his figure tall and straight like a spear, and he carried an ancient sword with pine patterns on it on his back. His long hair that was black like ink was tied up by a green rope, and he seemed heroic and elegant. He was a descendant of the undying giant Wang clan, viewed as the clan's heavens chosen. He had cultivated at the side of an old monster since he was young. Now, he was already a Nirvana God realm cultivator. In the 8th heaven, he is second to none, and his name is known throughout the world. It's just that in his heart, he didn't put the 8th heaven in his eyes at all. From the moment he started cultivating, his goal was the 9th heaven. One day, he will go to the 9th heaven and compete with the gods and goddesses of the eternal god race. Give me more information about Lin Sun. Wang Juohuan said. Behind him stood 4 experts from the Wang family. They were all old monsters who had reached the Nirvana God realm many years ago. Hearing this, one of them immediately stepped forward and handed over a jade slip with both hands. Wang Juohuan took the jade slip and carefully flipped through it. The jade slip recorded all the things that Lin Sun had done. Not only were his various performances in the Yuan sect, but also his actions in the vast 1,000 battles domain were also listed. Wang Juohuan had read the jade slip many times, but every time he read it, he couldn't understand it. He couldn't imagine how such a person could become the successor of the master of the core area. How could he have such heaven-defying battle prowess? He left the Yuan sect for more than 6 years. Where did he go during this period of time? Wang Juohuan suddenly asked. Young lord, it was Xian Feiling, the vice pavilion master of the Yuan sect, who took this boy away from the Yuan sect. Since then, there has been no news of him. We have tried to investigate, but to no avail. However, according to the analysis of some elders in the clan, this boy is very likely to go to the ruins of fortune. One person said in a low voice. The ruins of fortune. Wang Juohuan's eyes narrowed. After a moment of silence, he put away the jade slip and said, Is there any news from the experts of the Fu, Qi, Mu, Zhu, and Bai forces? At this time, not only the participants of the Wang family gathered in the field, but also the participants of the Zhongli clan, Zhong clan, Dongwang clan, and Jing clan. Young lord, they are on their way here. I'm afraid we still need to wait for a little longer, but at most 2 days. One person said in a low voice. Hearing this, Wang Juohuan turned and walked not far away. The participants of the Zhongli clan, Zhong clan, Dongwang clan, and Jing clan were gathered there. Jingying, your Zhong clan is best at hunting and assassinating. Are you sure you can find the whereabouts of Lin Sun in this mountain? Wang Juehuan looked at a woman. It was a beautiful woman with cold and sharp eyes and an illusory and ethereal aura. Jing Ying. She was a descendant of the Jing clan, a peak-stage nirvana god, and also the leader of the participants of the Jing clan. Hearing this, Jing Ying said, "I need some time." Wang Juehuan said, "How about a day?" Jing Ying frowned, but still nodded, "I will do my best." Wang Juehuan looked at the participants of the Zhongli clan, Donghuang clan, and Zhong clan and said, "This time, the 10 immortal giants moved together, not to hunt the desolate beasts, nor to compete with the 4 ancestral courts, but to find Lin Sun." Pausing, he said, "I hope that in the next operation you can cooperate with me and listen to my orders. Do you all understand?" These participants from the immortal giants were all peak existences in the Nirvana God realm. They all had powerful auras, and their temperaments were all different. But now they all seemed very obedient, no one questioned, and no one refuted. Because the one who spoke was Wang Juehuan, the heaven's son of the number 1 immortal giant, the Wang clan. "Jing Ying, you can move ahead with your people. If there's any news, report to me immediately." Wang Juehuan casually ordered. "Okay." Jing Ying immediately led the 4 Jing clan experts towards the distant Thousand Gully mountain range. "Everyone, from now on, get ready for battle. No matter who it is, don't be careless." Wang Juehuan said, "I can only tell you that Lin Sun is different from the others. Don't think that just because he's an early-stage Nirvana God realm, you can be careless. I hope that you all have prepared your trump cards and killer moves, and be ready to fight to the death." Everyone's heart trembled, and they all found it hard to believe. At this moment, although the other 5 immortal giants hadn't arrived yet, there were already 25 Nirvana God realm experts present. Every one of them was a peak-stage Nirvana God realm. Every one of them was a fierce character, 1 in 1,000. Under such circumstances, just to deal with Lin Sun, did they need to be prepared to fight to the death? Maybe you all think that I'm just being an alarmist, and I hope that's the case. But all the news proves that this Lin Sun is not easy to deal with. After saying that, Wang Juehuan turned around and left. He stood there alone with his hands clasped behind his back, looking at the Thousand Gully mountain range in silence. His tall and straight figure stood out like a spear. "Young master, there are traces of a battle here." In the Thousand Gully mountain range, an old man in a gray robe of Jing clan spoke. They were in a mountain and river, which was broken and withered, and the ground was soaked in blood. "Uncle, can you see anything from the traces of the battle?" Jing Ying asked. "The aura of this world is full of the power of order. Even if we use the reverse order, we can't restore the process of the battle here." The old man in a gray robe pondered, however, from the traces of the battle, there should have been a chaotic battle here. There were a lot of wild beasts of order, but the opponents of these wild beasts were not injured. It's very likely that they broke out of the encirclement and left safely. Chao Beidu sent the news that Lin Sun was accompanied by an elder of Yuan clan. With their ability they should be able to do this, Jing Ying said and swept forward with the old man in a gray robe and the other 3. Along the way they could often see traces of battle, which made it easier for Jing Ying and the others to search. There are so many traces left. This can only prove that Lin Sun doesn't know that his tracks have been betrayed by the people of Yuan clan. On the way, the old man in a gray robe laughed. Although Chao Beidu is an elder of Yuan clan, he is an expert cultivated by Fu clan. Naturally, he has to stand on the side of the 10 immortal magnates. Jing Ying said casually, "Everyone, be more vigilant. Our goal is only to search for the traces of our opponents, not to fight them." Ding! A faint bell suddenly rang. A middle-aged man in a yellow robe flipped his palm, and a string of green bells trembled slightly. The pupils of the middle-aged man in a yellow robe shrunk. "Young master, there is an aura of restriction. It's very likely that our appearance has been detected." Jing Ying immediately waved her hand. "Retreat." As she turned around and was about to retreat, a jade pendant appeared in her palm, and she crushed it. Puff! The jade pendant turned into a ray of fiery red light and shot into the sky. However, when Jing-Ying and the others were about to retreat, a sigh was heard. I didn't expect them to react so quickly. Is this a summoning talisman to gather people? As the voice sounded, Lin Sun and Li Jin's figures appeared in the air. Young master, you leave first, the old man in a grey robe said. As he spoke, he waved his sleeve, and heaven and earth suddenly became hot and dark. Rumbling thunder laws surged out from the void like a group of dancing dragons, enveloping Lin Sun and Li Jin. Clang! Li Jin drew his saber and slashed in the void. The sky full of thunder was slashed in half by the saber and dispersed like rain. That domineering attack caused the old man in a grey robe's pupils to shrink. Jing clan dares to get involved in the matter of harming people of Yuan clan? They must be tired of living, Li Jin said coldly. Young master, leave quickly. As the grey-robed old man spoke, he took a deep breath and summoned a snow-white flying sword. At the same time, the other three people beside him also revealed their power. Their killing intent surged as they surrounded Lin Sun and Li Jin. You just need to hold on for a while. Reinforcements will arrive. Jing-Ying's figure flashed, turned into a ray of grey light, and was about to break through the sky. At that moment Lin Sun smiled and said, You want to leave after coming? How can it be so easy? Along with the voice, Lin Sun's doppelgangers of the Great Path walked out from all directions. They surrounded and sealed the area. Among them, the scarlet flame Taoist body happened to be in the direction where Jing-Ying was escaping. Boom! The void seemed to be burning, and terrifying flames rose. Jing-Ying's figure darted out from the void in a sorry state. Her cold and beautiful face had a grave expression. More updates. Chapter 2937. Kill! A pitch-black dagger appeared between Jing-Ying's fingers. Her slender figure suddenly stepped on the void and rushed to the scarlet fire Taoist body. She reacted very quickly and was well versed in killing with one blow. When she rushed out, her cultivation at the full completion of Nirvana realm had been operated to the extreme, and she exerted her strongest blow. Whoosh! The dagger was like a grey line. All the power condensed to the extreme was contained in it, so no power wave spread. But wherever it passed, a straight crack appeared in the void silently, and it spread to the scarlet fire Taoist body at an incredible speed. The Thorn of Death. Jing-Ying was confident that she could kill someone at the same realm as her with one blow, because this was her trump card. But at this moment, a sword sound rang out and the world suddenly became still. Only a sword chi that swept across the whole area appeared in this still world. Jing-Ying's Thorn of Death also stopped for a moment. When she reacted, the sword chi that swept across the whole area had come close to her. Her face changed greatly. Forbidden passing. Clang. At the critical moment, Jing-Ying blocked the deadly sword chi with her dagger, but she was shaken and flew out fiercely, coughing up blood. After all, she was caught off guard and suffered a heavy blow. But fortunately, he survived in the end. However, before she could stand firm, a slender hand suddenly grabbed her neck from behind, and a terrible force spread out. Suddenly, her vision turned black, and she felt weak and suffocated. It was the scarlet fire Taoist body that caught Jing-Ying. At that moment, Lin Sun attacked with the forbidden passing with Abyssal Sword Cauldron, and the sword chi swept across the whole area, which also imprisoned the whole area for a moment. At this moment, he was able to capture Jing-Ying, who was caught off guard. But it was undeniable that Jing-Ying was indeed a powerful character. She actually blocked Lin Sun's sword before. If Lin Sun didn't use the Scarlet Fire Taoist body, he might not be able to catch her in the first place. Run, run! Jing-Ying, who was caught, was unwilling to give up and screamed. But in the next moment, her voice stopped abruptly. In Jing-Ying's field of vision, her 4 companions had already been captured, and all of them had ashen faces. How could this be? An uncontrollable fear welled up in Jing-Ying's heart. This battle happened too suddenly and ended too quickly. It was like a nightmare, causing Jing Ying's mind to go blank. Not only Jing Ying, but even Li Zhen was in a daze. It had only been 5 days since they had entered the 10 devilish territory. For the past few days, Lin Sun had been in seclusion to refine the order energy he had collected. However, it was not until then that Li Zhen suddenly found that Lin Sun's cultivation had improved a lot, and there was a faint sign that he was about to break through the middle stage of Nirvana realm. This improvement wasn't just godly, it was simply shocking. It took time to refine the order power. But in these short 5 days, it was very likely that Lin Sun had refined a large amount of order energy. Otherwise, it would be impossible for his cultivation to achieve such great progress. Thinking of this, Li Zhen realized that he had probably seen through a secret of Lin Sun's, and this secret was related to refining the order power. It has only been 5 days since the Immortal Tao battle started, and you all came from other devilish territories. Moreover, you all seem to have come especially for me. How did you know my whereabouts? Asked Lin Sun himself. Jing Ying pursed her lips and said nothing. Her 4 companions also said nothing. Bang! Black Water Tao body attacked and killed a gray-robed elder, destroying both his body and soul. A Nirvana realm expert from the Jing clan was killed just like that. This scene of death caused Jing Ying and the others' expressions to change abruptly. Time is precious. You'd better not waste it, Lin Sun himself said casually. Jing Ying's beautiful face was full of hatred. Outside the 1,000 Gully Mountain, the participants of the Immortal Tao battle are all gathered here. I have already spread the news that it won't be long before you, Lin Sun, are doomed. Bang! Another Nirvana realm expert from the Jing clan was killed. His body exploded and turned into ashes. Jing Ying's eyes were bloodshot and she gnashed her teeth. Lin Sun, you will die a horrible death. Bang! Bang! The remaining 2 participants of the Jing clan also died on the spot. This scene of blood and death made Jing Ying feel like she was about to collapse. Lin Sun said, Senior, should we stay or leave? Li Zhen said, You decide. Lin Sun smiled, then let's play with them. If the time is not right, we can just leave. As he spoke, he imprisoned Jing Ying and stuffed her into the abyssal sword cauldron. Then, he and Li Zhen teleported away. Not long after they left, a figure suddenly appeared. With a sound of breaking the air, Wang Juehuan came whistling over with a group of strong practitioners. When they saw the bloody traces in the field, everyone couldn't help but change their expressions. It had only been a quarter of an hour, but Jing Ying and the others had already been killed. Wang Juehuan's eyes flashed and he said, Now, you should know how difficult the opponent we are going to deal with this time is, right? Everyone was silent. Young master, Lin Sun should have just left. An old man of the Wang family reminded. Should they chase after him? The others all looked at Wang Juehuan. Although there were 50 participants of the 10 immortal giants this time, each immortal giant only sent 5 Nirvana realm practitioners. But now, the action against Lin Sun had just begun, and the 5 participants of the Jing clan had been wiped out, which made them shudder with fear. Chase! Wang Juehuan spat out a word. There was no turning back. If they didn't kill Lin Sun this time, they didn't know how long they would have to wait to seize such an opportunity again. He took the lead and moved forward. The others hurriedly followed him. When you came here, you must have brought secret treasures that can resist the power of time. I advise you not to hide them anymore. It's better to wear them now. On the way, Wang Juehuan said, If I'm right, Jing Ying and the others were caught off guard by Lin Sun's forbidden passing. Don't forget that Lin Sun once cut off Yu Fengzi's cultivation with the blade of time. If you are attacked by him, before he finished speaking, everyone had already taken out their secret treasures. There were bells, alms bowls, copper lamps, ancient seals, etc., all of which were filled with an obscure and mysterious aura. As early as before this operation, they had already obtained detailed information about Lin Sun. It was very clear that he inherited the talent of devouring abyss. His biggest trump card was the innate ability related to time. Therefore, their respective clans took out secret treasures that could resist the power of time and handed them to the participants one by one. Seeing this, Wang Juehuan's heart calmed down a little. A long time ago, the 10 immortal giants of the 8th heaven had seen the terrifying talent of devouring abyss. In order to deal with Luo Tongtian, they paid a heavy price. But it was also because of this that the 10 immortal giants had the experience to resist the power of time. Just like the secret treasures carried by these participants this time, they were special treasures that could resist the power of time. Jing Ying and the others also had similar treasures, but they were suddenly caught in a battle and didn't have time to take out these treasures. They were captured by Lin Sun in one fell swoop. This was also the reason why Wang Juehuan had asked everyone to prepare in advance. Inform the participants of the 5 major forces that are rushing over and tell them to make similar preparations. Wang Juehuan ordered. Yes. An old man casually threw a communication jade talisman, which turned into a flame and rushed into the sky. Wang Juehuan took off the ancient sword with pine patterns on his back and held it in his left hand. From childhood to adulthood, he was used to using his left hand to control the sword. In his right hand there was a blue Dao bead. Space-time thunder bead. Crystal clear like a pebble, the bead was surging with mysterious and obscure lightning arcs. It was the collision of the power of time and space, forming a kind of space-time divine thunder. A long time ago, an old ancestor of the Wang family used the space-time thunder bead to block Luo Tongtian's blade of time. Although he didn't win, he firmly restrained Luo Tongtian's actions, thus creating an excellent opportunity for the other old monsters who besieged Luo Tongtian. In the end, Luo Tongtian was killed in one fell swoop. It is no exaggeration to say that the space-time thunder bead is definitely a precious treasure of the Wang family. Now, this treasure was borrowed by Wang Juehuan. It can be seen that the Wang family attached great importance to him, the chosen one. After doing all this, Wang Juehuan's heart was completely calm, and his whole body glowed with a kind of disdainful and confident demeanor. He regarded Lin Sun as his number 1 enemy and dared not neglect him. But he was also confident that he could capture Lin Sun this time and reproduce the magnificent feat of the 10 immortal giants besieging Luo Tongtian. The mountains were boundless, and the peaks overlapped. The Wanghu mountain range was extremely vast. The mountains and rivers were filled with mist and ravines. Suddenly, from the depths of a ravine, a bolt of black lightning suddenly shot out and flashed in the void, condensing into a large lightning net filled with the power of order, covering the heads of Wang Juehuan and the others. Whoosh! Wang Juehuan, who had been waiting all the way, immediately waved his sword. The simple and unadorned ancient sword with pine patterns issued a shocking sword cry, which made the mountains and rivers tremble. Then, a green sword chi tore the sky and flashed down. The lightning net that was covered in the energy of order instantly emanated a deafening explosion, and it was easily slashed apart by this sword's strike and dispersed like a tide. Chop! Kill! Tut! At practically the exact same moment, all the people behind Wang Juehuan attacked in unison. They withdrew their treasures and blasted them towards the depths of the gorge. The dense glow of the Tao and divine radiance were simply like the Milky Way in the 9 heavens, and it was terrifying to the point it caused one's heart to tremble. In an instant, a beast roar sounded from the depths of the ravine, full of despair and fear, echoing between heaven and earth for a long time. Seeing this, the murderous crowd was stunned at first, and then they all relaxed. It turned out to be an order wild beast. I thought it was a sneak attack by Lin Sun. Someone said with a smile. Others also laughed, and even wondered if their reaction just now was too extreme. The previous wild beast had at least the power of the 4th level of heaven rank. This is a rare treasure. Please wait a moment, I'll go and get it. A clansman of the Zhongli clan walked out and rushed to the depths of the ravine. Seeing this scene, Wang Juehuan inexplicably felt that something was wrong. At this moment, from the depths of the ravine came the angry shout of the Zhongli clan, "There's an ambush!" Chapter 29:38. There's an ambush. Just 3 words resounded throughout the world. But in just an instant, the voice came to an abrupt halt, leaving only echoes echoing through the mountains and rivers. The pupils of Wang Juehuan and the others shrank, their expressions changing slightly. Kill! Without waiting for Wang Juehuan's order, the participants of the Zhongli clan attacked angrily, summoning their treasures and unleashing their Dao techniques, bombarding the depths of the ravine. Suddenly, the mountains and rivers near the ravine collapsed and exploded, forming a huge crater that was tens of thousands of meters wide. Smoke and dust filled the air. The world shook violently. But there was no trace of the enemy in the depths of the crater. At this moment, a figure appeared out of thin air in the distance. It was Li Zhen. He held a bloody head in one hand and a black saber in the other. His imposing figure looked like a god of war under the sunlight. When they saw the head, the participants of the Zhongli clan were enraged, because the one who was killed was their clansman, the Nirvana realm expert who had sneaked into the depths of the ravine. It seems that the 10 immortal giants want to be enemies with my Yuan sect. Fine, I'll settle the score with the forces behind you one by one in the future, Li Zhen said coldly. With that, he turned around and left. Chase. The participants of the Zhongli clan teleported and charged forward at the first possible moment. Chase. Wang Juehuan took a deep breath and gave the order. One of his companions was killed right under his nose. This made his heart surge with killing intent. But at this moment, a spatial rift suddenly appeared above their heads, and it simply seemed as if the sky had suddenly split open at this moment. In this space-time crack, a 10,000 meters wide portal appeared, interweaving with terrifying time energy. It was deep and obscure, like the gate to hell had opened at this moment. Tens of thousands of meters wide mountains and rivers were covered by it. The expressions of Wang Juehuan and the others completely changed. Although they couldn't recognize what kind of divine ability this was, there was no doubt that it was related to the devouring abyss talent. Quick, use your secret treasures and escape from this area. Wang Juehuan rarely calmed down at this moment. As he gave the order, his figure rapidly retreated. Rumble! The spatial door that spanned 100,000 feet abruptly sank, as if it wanted to devour the entire land. At the same time, an extremely terrifying devouring power was unleashed from the door. The mountains and rivers on this land were uprooted and sucked into the space-time door. The Earth's crust cracked and flew up piece by piece. Wang Juehuan and the others felt as if they had fallen into a storm, and the terrifying engulfing force made them lose control of their bodies. Open! Rise! Ha! They roared loudly and exerted all their cultivation. All of them surged with divine radiance as they withdrew their respective secret treasures and resisted desperately. These secret treasures glowed with different kinds of light, dazzling, and actually resisted the devouring power released by the space-time portal. Moreover, powerful characters like Wang Juehuan had already retreated into the distance while resisting. Rumble! Heaven and earth shook, the wind and clouds rolled, and sand and pebbles flew. Looking from afar, the 30,000-foot wide space-time door was like a bloody mouth that swallowed the earth. It took a long time to describe, yet all of this actually happened in an extremely short period of time. Boom! Soon, the space-time door completely covered the earth, and the earth suddenly collapsed and sank like a piece of paper. 100 feet, 1,000 feet, Wang Juehuan held the space-time thunder bead in his hand, and his tall and straight figure was bathed in blue lightning. He stood in the void, his face gloomy and terrifying. There were only 11 people who avoided this calamity like him. The other 7 companions didn't have time to escape and were swallowed by the space-time door. Even if these 7 companions used secret treasures that could resist the power of time, it was of no use. The reason was that the space-time door had appeared too suddenly, and its scope was too large, covering an area of 100,000 feet. And within this area of 100,000 feet, it was restrained and imprisoned by the power of time and space. Retreating was like wading through a swamp, so the 7 Nirvana God realm existences couldn't escape in the end, and their figures were completely swallowed. Heaven and earth shook, smoke and dust filled the air, and the 100,000 feet of mountains and rivers completely collapsed. The space-time door disappeared. But the faces of Wang Juehuan and the others had already become extremely livid. In just a few blinks of an eye, a great calamity had descended just like that. How could they not be shocked and angry? Come out! Suddenly, Wang Juehuan roared and slashed out with the ancient pine-patterned sword in his hand. The void in the distance was suddenly split open. A figure rushed out from the void like lightning. It was Lin Sun. "It's a pity that I can't send you to hell together," Lin Sun sighed softly. Lin Sun. The eyes of the people around Wang Juehuan were red, and their killing intent was surging. They were so angry that they directly moved the void to kill Lin Sun. Lin Sun and Li Zhen looked at each other and turned away. This was not the time to show off. In the previous battle, Lin Sun had noticed that the other side had obviously come prepared and carried secret treasures that could resist the power of time. Under such circumstances, even the Gate of Exile, the Blade of Time, and the Door of Exile wouldn't be of much use. It would be unwise to stay and fight recklessly. Lin Sun had used the Forbidden Passing when he killed Jing Ying and the others. Just now, he used the Gate of Exile with all his strength to cover the area of 100,000 feet. So far, he had consumed about half of his cultivation. Even with Li Zhen's help, once he fell into a fierce battle, there would be many uncontrollable accidents. Lin Sun did not believe that the participants sent by the 10 immortal giants would not have prepared some fatal trump cards. Under such circumstances, it was obviously the best choice to withdraw. This immortal Tao battle would last for 10 years, and there would be opportunities to kill them one by one. There was no need to rush to fight with them now. Whoosh! Whoosh! In the void, Lin Sun and Li Zhen moved extremely fast, like 2 flashing light spots. A jump could cover a distance of thousands of feet. But the enemies chasing them could not be underestimated. They had been chasing behind them. This man has used his talent skills many times and consumed a lot of power. He is obviously on the verge of collapse. No matter what, we must capture him this time. Wang Juehuan's face was cold. He could not blame Jing Ying and the others for their misfortune. But the previous setback made Wang Juehuan unable to shirk the responsibility. He had been well prepared and had made all kinds of comprehensive preparations. But he did not expect that Lin Sun did not use the Forbidden Passing or the Blade of Time. Instead, Lin Sun used a kind of terrible magic that he did not know and had not expected at all. It was this divine ability that caught him off guard. At this moment, thinking of the previous scene, Wang Juehuan could not help but feel terrified. A space-time portal could swallow mountains and rivers within a range of thousands of feet. This was even more terrible than the Blade of Time of the Lord of Tongtian. But Wang Juehuan also saw that Lin Sun had consumed a lot of energy after using this magic. Go! While chasing, Wang Juehuan spat out a snow-white flying knife from his mouth and disappeared into thin air. The life-killer knife. It could appear thousands of miles away in an instant and cut off the enemy's head. In the distance, Lin Sun, who was moving, felt his eyelids twitch. He immediately released the sword cauldron and blocked the knife at the critical moment. Clang! The life-killer knife collided with the sword cauldron, and the divine light splashed. Lin Sun could not help but be surprised. What a powerful killing force! It even shook his blood and qi. Chop! 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 Wang Juehuan was not discouraged at all. He continuously used the life-killer knife to bombard Lin Sun. He didn't want to work hard, but just wanted to restrain Lin Sun. Clang, clang, clang. The earth-shattering roar resounded. The power of each knife was extremely terrifying. Although it was blocked by the sword cauldron, the speed of Lin Sun's movement was affected. This made Wang Juehuan and others feel refreshed. Swish! When he saw the life-severing flying dagger arrive explosively once more, a Dao sword suddenly flashed out from within the abyssal sword cauldron, and it struck out horizontally with a peerlessly fierce might. Crack! With an ear-piercing sound, a crack appeared on the life-slicing flying knife, and it was sent flying backward. Suffering from this, Wang Juehuan couldn't help but bleed from the corner of his mouth, and his eyes were full of shock. The life-killer knife was one of the ancestral treasures of the Wang family. It was tempered by tens of thousands of supreme divine materials, could be called one of the top immortal Taoist weapons in the world, and it had a fierce reputation in the eighth heaven. But now, in a head-on collision, a gap had been opened up. The sword cauldron in this guy's hand is too strong. Wang Juehuan's face was gloomy. He didn't dare to fight with the life-killer knife again, for fear that this treasure would be destroyed. However, seeing that he couldn't catch up with Lin Sun and Li Zhen, Wang Juehuan couldn't help but feel a little anxious. At this moment, in the distant sky, there was a sudden burst of light. The brilliant Buddha's light covered the world there, dazzling and blazing. The mountains and rivers were illuminated, and there was a bright and sacred atmosphere. Participants of Zen sect. Someone exclaimed. They must have come to kill Lin Sun. Haha, this boy can't escape. Many people were excited. Only Wang Juehuan frowned, and a strong unwillingness surged in his heart. He was supposed to be the protagonist of this operation to kill Lin Sun. But now, the participants of the ancestral court of Zen sect jumped out and wanted to intercept him. How could Wang Juehuan, who had always been conceited, be happy? At the same time, Lin Sun and Li Zhen stopped abruptly and frowned at the same time. In the distant sky full of Buddha's light, there were 4 figures standing. Each of them was like the legendary Buddha. Their bodies were surging with great light, covering the sky and the earth with immeasurable power. Looking carefully, they were the participants of the ancestral court of Zen sect, Ku Xian Buddha, Ku Ji Buddha, Juwen Buddha and Juzhen Buddha. When did your Zen sect learn to loot a burning house? Li Zhen's face was gloomy. The immortal Tao battle is a competition between the 4 ancestral courts. Taoism Pure Li Zhen is so flustered and exasperated. Is it because you don't have enough confidence? Ku Xian Buddha was solemn and calm. As he spoke, he and the other 3 Buddha lords had already approached step by step from a very far distance. Their aura shrouded the sky and the earth, just like 4 holy mountains shining with Buddha's light moving horizontally, blocking the way ahead of Lin Sun and the others. Behind them, Wang Juehuan and the other 12 people were also approaching quickly. At this moment, Lin Sun made a prompt decision and landed on the top of a mountain with Li Zhen. He said, "Senior, leave it to me. I'll go back to my hometown on the weekend, but I'll keep updating as usual." Chapter 29:39. On the top of the mountain, Lin Sun and Li Zhen stood side by side. In front of them, the 4 Buddhas of Dhyana stood at a height of thousands of meters. The light of Buddha pierced through the sky and the earth, looking sacred and boundless. Behind them, Wang Juehuan waved his hand and led the crowd to stand in the void of thousands of meters. For Taoism friends of Dhyana, in order to avoid conflict, I hope you can take a step back and let us capture and kill Lin Sun. Wang Juehuan said calmly. As the chosen one of Wang family, he was full of confidence in facing the practitioners of Dhyana. This person is a great enemy of our Dhyana. We should take him back to our sect and punish him. Please don't make it difficult for us. Ku Xian, the leader of the group, put his palms together and said calmly. Obviously, the reason why they chose to stop instead of taking action at the first time was that they were afraid of causing conflicts in the battle to kill Lin Sun. Li Zhen's heart was filled with unspeakable anger and killing intent. These two camps actually regarded them as prey that could be slaughtered at will. Lin soon remained calm, but his eyes were deep and terrible. At the same time, Wang Juehuan frowned a little and said, "Such a stalemate will only give Lin Sun more time to recover his strength. If you insist on not giving way, we can only rely on our own means." "All right." Ku Xian nodded, his expression calm. Boom! Wang Juehuan raised his left hand, and the ancient sword with pine patterns suddenly whistled and chopped at Lin Sun. The momentum of this sword was earth-shattering. Almost at the same time, Ku Xian also made a move. A golden alms bowl rose into the air and tilted its mouth. Bright and blazing torrents of Buddha's light gushed out from it, rushing towards the mountain where Lin Sun and Li Zhen were. Clang! Li Zhen waved his black saber to resist, but at this moment, the rules of time between heaven and earth seemed to be attracted. Countless flowing lights flew, and the power of time intertwined and turned into an illusory power of prohibition, covering the whole mountain. The fourth stage of talent, Time Seal. The moment the sword qi slashed out by Wang Juehuan came into contact with the Time Seal, it silently dissipated. As for the Buddhist light that poured out from the golden alms bowl, it was also silently dissolved. There was no roar, no collision. Just like snow melting into water, clay oxen disappearing into the sea. This incredible scene made Wang Juehuan's and Ku Xian's eyes shrink at the same time. It's a restriction constructed by the power of time. Wang Juehuan's eyes showed disbelief. Time was one of the most supreme great Daos. Emperors could sense it, but they couldn't comprehend it. Undying beings could comprehend it, but they would only be able to comprehend the surface, unable to reach a higher level. In this world, only the existences of the eternal realm could touch and grasp the mysteries of time. But now, Lin had formed a formation with the power of time. If Wang Juehuan hadn't known that Lin's talent was related to time, this scene would have almost subverted his cognition. Lin, Sun Bai 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 Zhen Bai 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 He. Lin of people of Li of Bai Yang Bai of Zhen Bai 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 Bai. Lin Bai 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 Li of the Bai Zhen He. By Lin Sun's. In fact, Lin was on the verge of exhaustion at the moment. From the moment he killed Jing-Ying until now, he had used the forbidden passing divine ability, the Door of Exile, and now he had used the Time Seal. He had almost exhausted all of his cultivation. "Senior, don't pay attention to them. Let's meditate here." As Lin said, he sat cross-legged, grabbed a handful of immortal sun-moon elixirs and stuffed them into his mouth. Then he began to meditate with all his strength. As for the enemies nearby, he completely ignored them, turning a blind eye to them. Li Zhen was stunned for a moment, and then couldn't help grinning. He immediately sat cross-legged and began to meditate like Lin. Seeing this scene, Wang Juehuan and others' faces darkened. Ku Xian, Ku Ji and the other Buddha lords also frowned. "Let me have a try," Ku Ji said in a deep voice. He stepped forward and took out a green lamp from his sleeve. The green lamp swayed, sprinkling the power of time. It was magnificent and illusory, like a circle of ripples, spreading to the mountain where Lin was. Bang! Bang! Dense explosions sounded. After the circles of ripples collided with the Time Seal, they were completely absorbed and swallowed by the Time Seal, like a stream merging into the sea. Ku Ji's face changed slightly. He quickly put away the green lamp, and there was a touch of surprise between his eyebrows. Cut! Beside Wang Juehuan, a Nirvana realm existence shouted and waved a halberd. The power of time was faintly flowing in the blade of the halberd. Whoosh! A sharp light slashed out and hit the Time Seal, but it only caused a wave of power, and then the Time Seal was restored to its original state. This scene caused everyone's expression to turn a little ugly. Was the Time Seal really unbreakable? They were not reconciled. They finally caught Lin, but they couldn't capture him, which made them even more angry. In the following time, whether it was Wang Juehuan or the four Buddha lords, they all began to use various means to break the Time Seal. all kinds of secret treasures, Taoism, were displayed one after another. But in the end, they all failed. The power of the time seal was too mysterious and unfathomable. It seemed that any attack and power became pale and powerless in front of it. Lin Sun and Li Zhen were calm and composed, meditating quietly, as if they had completely forgotten themselves. This also made the faces of Wang Juehuan and the others extremely gloomy. From the beginning of this battle, Jing Ying and the other 4 participants of the Jing clan were wiped out, and then a participant of the Zhongli clan died tragically in the abyss. Then, with the help of Lin Sun's Gate of Exile, he reaped the lives of 7 participants in one fell swoop. The original team of 25 people was now only left with 12 people. Who wouldn't be angry at such a heavy loss? The most annoying thing was that Lin Sun was clearly in front of them, but they couldn't do anything. This made them almost explode with anger. Ku Xian, Ku Ji, Juwen, and Zhu Zhen frowned more and more. This seal is condensed by the power of time, and it is destined to be impossible to maintain. Perhaps it won't be long before it collapses. Someone said in a low voice. Someone said with an ugly expression, but even if it collapses, Lin Sun can condense a new time seal again. Using this seal will consume a lot of his energy. I don't believe he can hold on like this for 10 years. Wang Juehuan gritted his teeth, spread the news and let the participants of the other 5 forces come quickly and seal this place. I want to see who can outlast who. This was the most passive method, but at this moment they had no other choice. That's right. If he wants to outlast us, let's outlast him. Someone said fiercely, it's just 10 years. If Lin Sun can hold on until then, I can even kill myself. In the distance, Ku Xian, Ku Ji, and the others looked at each other helplessly. They were different from Wang Juehuan and the others. The purpose of participating in the Immortal Tao battle was not only to deal with Lin Sun, but also to hunt down order wild beasts and accumulate merits. Otherwise, the ranking of their Zen sect in this Immortal Tao battle would be affected. We will wait here for a month. If we still can't do anything, then we will decide to leave. In the end, Ku Xian made a decision. In the following time, the mountains and rivers returned to their usual tranquility, but the scene in the field was a little strange. Lin Sun and Li Zhen were sitting cross-legged on the mountain peak. In front and behind them, the 4 Buddha lords, Wang Juehuan, and the other 12 people were also sitting cross-legged in the void, meditating quietly in a place far away. Yuan Changtian, who was hovering in the sky above a valley, was stunned when he saw this scene. What was going on? He was wearing a black feather robe, which transformed into a layer of obscure power that concealed him, Chao Beidu and Yun Tianming. This was the heaven-concealing feather robe, which could conceal all auras. It was extremely magical. Except for Eternal Realm experts, no one could see through it. The only drawback was that the heaven-concealing feather robe could not be used in battle. Lin Sun is obviously surrounded. He is holding on with the power of a seal, but in my opinion, he won't be able to hold on for long. Chao Beidu gloated. Time seal, this guy really has a lot of trump cards. Unfortunately, he is now a trapped beast. Yun Tianming's voice was cold. It's really a pity. Yuan Changtian sighed softly. I planned to help him, but now it seems that once we get involved, we will be regarded as opponents by Wang Juehuan and the participants of Zen sect. Although I'm not afraid, I don't want to get into trouble. Chao Beidu said with a smile. Elder Yuan is right. Saving Lin Sun is tantamount to bringing trouble to ourselves. It's not wise. Elder Yuan, what should we do next? Yun Tianming asked. Yuan Changtian was silent for a moment and then said, Do you think the participants of witchcraft will be attracted here if the news of this place is spread out? Chao Beidu's eyes lit up. Of course. Leave this matter to me. Yun Tianming also laughed. How could those forces who hated Lin Sun remain indifferent after learning the news that he was trapped here? In fact, it's very simple to solve this problem. Capture Moon in the well, the successor of Mount Heart of the Spirit sect, and use it as a threat. Then Lin Sun will not be able to hide in the time seal again. Yuan Changtian said casually. Unfortunately, Ji Shanhai is the leader of the participants of Spirit sect. Given her temperament and nature, she will never let this happen. At the end of his words, he sighed softly. Chao Beta's eyes flickered. But if Moon in the Well knows about this, he will definitely come to help Lin Sun. At that time, there will be some unexpected accident. Yuan Changtian glanced at him and said, "Stupid. If Ji Shanhai also comes, do you think she will watch Moon in the Well die?" Chao Beta's face stiffened, and he said embarrassedly, "Elder Yuan is right. Just send a message to the people of witchcraft." Yuan Changtian pondered for a moment and made a decision. With the power of witchcraft, Zen sect, and the 10 immortal giants, Lin Sun should have no chance of surviving this time. Yuan Changtian was very cautious. He only said, "should" instead of "absolutely," because he knew that there were always variables before there was no result. But Yuan Changtian was sure that there were very few variables that could save Lin Sun this time. P.S. I just came back from my hometown, so it's a little late. Chapter 2940. On the second day after Lin Sun was trapped, 25 participants from the Fu clan, the Qi clan, the Mu clan, the Zhu clan, and the Qi clan arrived and met up with Wang Juehuan's group. All of a sudden, Wang Juehuan's group became more powerful. The 4 Buddhist lords of the Zen sect had planned to wait for a month, but they wisely chose to retreat after seeing the situation. They knew very well that even if there was a chance to kill Lin Sun, the 4 of them wouldn't be able to do it. Yuan Changtian, who had been hiding in the dark, couldn't help but frown. This was the first variable. He didn't expect Wang Juehuan to be so ruthless as to gather all the participants from the 10 immortal sects here. Under such circumstances, even if the participants from the Shaman sect arrived, they would probably make the same choice as the 4 Buddhist lords of the Zen sect. As expected, on the 5th day after Lin Sun was trapped, the 5 participants from the Shaman sect led by Tsang Fufeng arrived. They didn't stay long before they turned around and left. Yuan Changtian could roughly guess what Tsang Fufeng was thinking. It wasn't that he couldn't beat them, but that he didn't want to fight with Wang Juehuan and the others for Lin Sun. Because once they fought, it was very likely that there would be a conflict. Yuan Changtian was very clear that Tsang Fufeng, Wen Qiaoshui, and Ji Shanhai should have the same purpose as him in this immortal path battle. They wanted to seize the greatest opportunity in the 10 devil territory, which was very likely to be related to the order power of God level. And this opportunity was in the Sky Demon territory. But everyone knew that they could only go to the Sky Demon territory after 10 years. This also meant that before going to the Sky Demon territory, Tsang Fufeng and the other divine sons and daughters would definitely not do anything that would harm their own forces. They wouldn't take any risk. On the contrary, Wang Juehuan and the other participants from the 10 immortal sects had a clear goal: to deal with Lin Sun. That was why they had mobilized so many people at the beginning of the Immortal Path battle. "Let's go." Yuan Changtian's eyes flashed as he made a decision. "Go!" Chao Beidu and Yun Tianming were somewhat unwilling. "Don't you want to see how Lin Sun will be killed?" Yuan Changtian frowned and said, "You too, we represent the Yuan Church. Don't forget that hunting wild beasts of order is our main business. What's more, do you think Lin Sun can return to the Yuan Church alive, even if he can leave the 10th Devil Territory alive?" With that, he turned around and left. Chao Beidu and Yun Tianming quickly followed. Senior. On the 7th day of being trapped, Lin Sun opened his eyes from meditation. "I'll go out to kill the enemies later. You just wait here." Li Zhen was startled. "You don't need my help?" "No need." Lin Sun got up and said with a smile, "It's no big deal to escape into this formation again." With his current mastery of the spacetime seal, he could only last for half a month at most. He was far from being like the eternal Night Divine Emperor, who could extend this seal for countless years. But this was enough. This guy seems to be making a move. In the distance, Wang Juehuan and others who had been waiting outside the formation were in a commotion. They all noticed Lin's movements. Looks like he won't be able to hold on much longer. Zhu Huan stood up, holding the ancient sword with pine patterns in his left hand and the space-time thunder bead in his right hand. His eyes were cold. Everyone, get ready for battle. The other 36 people present all stood up and waited for the battle. Sorry to keep you waiting for a long time. Lin Sun walked out of the space-time seal. The abyssal sword cauldron floated up and down, and hundreds of millions of lights bathed his tall figure. Did he just walk out like this? Many people were stunned. They felt that Lin Sun's move was like courting death. Even Wang Juehuan was surprised and said, "What? Are you not going to continue to hide?" As Lin Sun walked forward, he said with a smile, "You're really annoying." Boom! The abyssal sword cauldron roared, and then Lin Sun rushed forward. Seeing this, Wang Juehuan and others finally believed that Lin Sun was not bluffing but really intended to fight to the death. Kill. These days, Wang Juehuan and others who had accumulated a bellyful of anger did not hesitate to use their strongest means at this moment. Boom! All kinds of treasures and Taoist magic flew across the sky and rushed towards Lin Sun like a tide. The whole world was dazzled by them. It was terrifying. More than 30 Nirvana realm cultivators attacked together. The power gathered seemed to be able to break the universe and destroy everything in the world. Lin Sun did not dodge and used the door of exile with the abyssal sword cauldron. Boom! In an instant, the space-time portal appeared, like the bloody mouth of a giant beast, swallowing most of the attacks and treasures. Retreat! Wang Juehuan, who had already suffered a great loss from the door of exile, shouted and used a secret treasure that could resist the power of time to retreat. All of them were shocked and angry. Lin Sun used such a terrible magic as soon as he came up. It was like he was crazy. Fortunately, they were prepared and did not suffer any casualties. Lin Sun, this kind of power is useless to us. Wang Juehuan shouted in the distance. It's useful. As Lin Sun spoke, the space-time portal shrank countless times in an instant, turning into a light spot that lingered on the abyssal sword cauldron. Swish! He rushed forward with the abyssal sword cauldron in his hand. His figure flickered and came to a strong man in an instant. Die. This person's reaction was extremely fast, and he was extremely shrewd. He immediately used his trump card. Buzz. A mysterious black talisman suddenly exploded in the void, releasing an unimaginable torrent of destruction. Lin Sun smashed the abyssal sword cauldron down. Suddenly, the destructive torrent disappeared strangely, as if it had been swallowed. This was the magical effect of the door of exile. During the 9 years of closed-door training in Yuan sect, Lin Sun had already refined the door of exile to an unprecedented level. When it was big, it could cover the sky and earth, and when it was small, it could turn into a light shadow. But no matter how big or small it was, its power was equal. The most amazing thing was that the smaller the door of exile, the longer it could last. In this way, the door of exile, like a light shadow, could last for an hour. Oh no! The man who was targeted by Lin Sun suddenly changed his expression and tried to dodge. But it was too late. The abyssal sword cauldron had already arrived. In desperation, the man blocked with the spear in his hand. Boom! The expected head-on collision did not happen. As the abyssal sword cauldron fell, the spear in the man's hand was immediately swallowed by the door of exile. Then, the man was swallowed by it and disappeared. Everything happened so fast that it felt as if the man had suddenly evaporated into thin air. This strange scene caused the expressions of the others to change greatly. Kill the enemy with the secret treasure of time. Wang Juehuan saw the clue and shouted. Boom! He rushed forward with the space-time thunder bead and collided with the abyssal sword cauldron. A deafening roar followed, and the violent power of time spread. There was no doubt that the power of the space-time thunder bead could resist the power of the door of exile. Seeing this scene clearly, the others were refreshed and rushed toward Lin Sun. However, when they besieged Lin Sun, the door of exile on the abyssal sword cauldron suddenly expanded to a range of 300 meters. As Lin Sun rushed forward, it swallowed all the attacks as if it was swallowing the world. The most amazing thing was that the door of exile produced a terrible traction force at the same time. Although many people resisted with the secret treasure of time and were not sucked in, they still staggered. Lin Sun seized the opportunity. The 5 Tao bodies rushed out violently, each rushing toward an opponent. Puff! A participant who didn't manage to dodge in time was killed by the Greenwood Taoist body. His blood rained down. Almost at the same time, the 4 Tao bodies of Yellow Earth, Black Water, Greenwood, and Platinum Tao bodies also killed 2 people and seriously injured another 2. Everything happened too fast. In a flash, the boundary between life and death was drawn. At this time, Lin Sun shrunk the door of exile into a shadow and attached it to the abyssal sword cauldron. As he rushed forward, the opponents who could not dodge in time also disappeared into thin air. They were swallowed by the door of exile again. Kill! Wang Juehuan's killing intent surged. He took the lead and rushed forward, the space-time thunder bead shining with a terrible luster. However, when he and the other strong people rushed over, Lin Sun expanded the door of exile to a range of 300 meters, and the power it produced suddenly soared, even with Wang Juehuan's state of mind. He was so angry that he almost jumped up when he saw this scene. Was there no end to it? But no matter how angry he was, he had to dodge. This was because although the power of the space-time thunder bead could resist the door of exile, it would also greatly restrict his figure. The other strong people were not so lucky. Once again, they were hit by the power of the door of exile and staggered. The 5 Tao bodies seized the opportunity and rushed forward. Rumble! An earth-shattering boom resounded. This time, another 3 people were killed. Each one of them was a top existence in 1,000, a fierce character in the Nirvana God Great Perfection stage. In the outside world, they were definitely big shots who could rule over an immortal emperor clan. But now, they were constantly being killed by Lin Sun's door of exile. This drove Wang Juehuan and the others crazy. They were so depressed that they wanted to vomit blood. They had never experienced such a treacherous battle before. An innate divine ability related to time rendered them powerless to resist. This was too unbelievable. Li Zhen, who was watching the battle from afar, was dumbfounded. Wasn't this kind of talent a bit too heaven-defying? He didn't know that in the 9 years of seclusion, Lin Sun had already mastered this talent to the acme of perfection in order to explore the power inside the door of exile. He could change its size at will. Rumble! Rumble! Heaven and earth shook as the fierce battle unfolded. The nearby mountains and rivers had long been turned to ashes, the earth was sinking, and the void was in complete disorder. A terrifying torrent of power swept through the 9 heavens and 10 earths, as if the end of the world had arrived. In the battlefield, although Lin Sun was alone, he showed an invincible posture. Every time the enemy tried to encircle him, he would break the offensive with the banishment gate, which was more than 300 meters in size. And every time this happened, there would be someone who couldn't dodge in time and was killed by Lin Sun and his 5 doppelgangers. It only took a moment. 12 of the 10 immortal emperors had already fallen. 7 of them had been sucked into the door of exile. Chapter 29:41. It was only a moment. Lin Sun's gate of exile collapsed and disappeared. If he had used this ability in its smallest form, it would not have lasted for such a short time. But for Lin Sun, it was enough. 12 of the 37 Nirvana God Realm cultivators from the 10 immortal giants were killed in just a moment. And he only paid about 40% of his strength, which was really worth it. The scene of his companions dying one after another stimulated Wang Juehuan's face, and his heart was full of depression and anger. As the chosen one of the Wang family, a peerless genius who has long set his sights on the ninth heaven, Wang Juehuan has never suffered such a big loss since he started cultivating. If they were to ask themselves honestly, their preparations for this operation could not be said to be inadequate, and they had never looked down on or underestimated their enemies. But even so, they still suffered such a heavy setback. How could Wang Juehuan still be calm? Kill! Wang Juehuan didn't lose his mind with anger. When he was keenly aware that Lin Sun's gate of exile had disappeared, he immediately took action. Boom! In his palm, the time-space thunder bead released blue lightning arcs, and the aura of destruction was astonishing. The other participants also noticed the change in Lin Sun's aura, and without hesitation, they followed Wang Juehuan to launch an attack. These Nirvana God Realm cultivators were all experienced in fighting, and they were determined not to give Lin Sun a chance to use the Gate of Exile. When they attacked, they all used their trump cards one by one. Boom! In the twinkling of an eye, Lin Sun's figure staggered, and he didn't even have time to cast the Gate of Exile he was about to use. Seeing this, Wang Juehuan's spirit was lifted, and his offensive became more and more violent, as if he was desperate. Quick, suppress him, we can't give him any chance. Wang Juehuan roared. Kill! The other participants also became excited, and their killing intent surged as they besieged Lin Sun. Lin Sun smiled slightly. That's it for today. Take a break and fight again. His voice was still drifting through the air, but his figure had already started teleporting, and he charged into the peak of the mountain that was covered by the power of the time seal. Boom! The attacks that blotted out the heavens and covered the earth blasted against the time seal, causing violent fluctuations to arise. However, all of these attacks were neutralized one by one, and they were unable to break through this profound and unfathomable time seal. Seeing this scene, Wang Juehuan and the others were so angry that they almost vomited blood. They were going crazy. It was not easy to seize the opportunity to suppress Lin Sun, but Lin Sun escaped into the time restriction again. Wouldn't the price he paid before be in vain? Damn it! Damn it! Some participants were so angry that they began to curse. Lin Sun, do you dare to come out and fight? What a disgrace! Running away when you can't win? How despicable! The dignified disciple of Feng Xiyuan is actually so shameless. The entire region was filled with curses. Li Zhen, who was in the grand array, couldn't help but laugh when she saw this scene. These fellows' flustered and exasperated appearances were really too interesting. Lin Sun didn't pay attention to this. He sat on the ground with his legs crossed leisurely, grabbed a handful of immortal sun-moon pills, and began to restore his strength. Li Zhen stood up with a cold expression. Despicable? Shameless? Shameful? The top 10 immortal forces have gathered 50 Nirvana realm practitioners to besiege Lin Sun. I'd like to ask who is the despicable, shameless, and shameful one? His words were like thunder resounding through the world. This made Wang Juehuan and the others look more and more gloomy, and their hearts were full of shame. It's ridiculous that 50 participants have been killed by Lin Sun alone. If this gets out, who will be the shameful one? Li Zhen had always been reticent and treasured his words like gold. But at this time, every word of his was like a knife, and he was aggressive in arguing, which surprised Lin Sun. Look, now there are only 25 of you left, that is, half of you have been killed by Lin Sun. How dare you still clamor? Li Zhen was expressionless. If I were you, I would have committed suicide long ago, so as not to bother others to send you to hell one by one. The scene was silent. Only Li Zhen's voice echoed between heaven and earth. Wang Juehuan and the others were scolded badly. They looked embarrassed, exasperated, and helpless. If they could break into the forbidden formation of time, they would have rushed in and killed Li Zhen immediately. If you want to continue waiting for death, then just wait outside obediently. With that said, Li Zhen returned to her original spot and meditated cross-legged. Outside the formation, Wang Juehuan and the others looked at each other, and their faces became more and more gloomy. Up to now, more than half of them had been killed or injured, but Lin Sun was unscathed. Although they were furious, they had to think calmly about what to do next. Many people looked at Wang Juhuan. This time, the action of the 10 immortal giants was led by Wang Juhuan. Wang Juhuan fell into a long silence. As time went by, the atmosphere in the field became more and more depressed. Everyone could see that Wang Juhuan was struggling in his heart and facing a dilemma. Retreat. Finally, Wang Juhuan gritted his teeth and spat out a word. If they continued to stay, according to this situation, they would have little chance to kill Lin Sun. On the contrary, he would repeat the same trick and cause unpredictable damage to them. However, even though he had made the decision to retreat, Wang Juhuan's heart was full of unwillingness. Up to this point, they had sacrificed so many lives. It was undoubtedly a great shame and humiliation to retreat like this. If it was spread out, they would become a laughing stock. Knowing Wang Juhuan's decision, everyone around him inexplicably breathed a sigh of relief. After calming down, they realized how dangerous the battle with Lin Sun was just now. Thinking of the scene of their companions dying one by one, they all felt a chill on their backs, as if falling into an ice cave. Asking themselves honestly, if they were to recklessly kill like before, they would have no choice but to weigh the consequences in their hearts. There are still the forces of Voodoo cult and Zen sect in the 10 Directions Devil territory, as well as the Divine Sons, such as Wen Xiaoshui and Song Fufeng. I'd like to see how long you can live. Leaving a cruel sentence full of unwillingness, Wang Juhuan turned around and retreated. The others hurriedly followed. These fellows have become smarter, Li Jin said coldly. Don't worry. There are still several years to go. There will be plenty of opportunities to kill them all. Lin Sun said casually. Don't chase a cornered enemy. Not to mention, with his current cultivation, he might be able to kill more enemies if he chased after them, but he would have to pay a price. Most importantly, Lin Sun wasn't sure if there were other enemies nearby, such as the 4 Buddhist lords of Zen sect. That's right. After 9 years, all the surviving participants are bound to go to the Earth Devil territory. At that time, there will be opportunities to kill the enemies, Li Jin said. Lin Sun won the battle against the 10 immortal giants beautifully. He killed 25 Nirvana God Perfection Realm existences one after another. Such a battle record was already shocking. One should know that in the 8th heaven, Nirvana God Perfection Realm existences were already considered top-notch existences, second only to the Transcendent Realm Antique. Among the 10 immortal giants, there were only a limited number of such experts. Now that such a huge loss had occurred to the 10 undying giants, it was an extremely heavy blow. Thinking of this, Li Zhen's expression couldn't help but be a little strange. Even in the Yuan sect, no one would have thought that Lin Sun could achieve such a glorious battle record by himself. This kid was indeed a freak. Senior, I'm only concerned about who leaked our tracks, Lin Sun said casually. Lin Sun said casually. He did not know what Li Zhen was thinking. Our Yuan sect was the first batch to enter the 10-direction demon territory. According to previous experiences, only we were moved to the eastern demon territory. Li Zhen's eyes flickered, but on the 3rd day after we arrived, the 10 immortal giants found this 1,000-gully mountain range. There's only one possibility. Lin Sun sighed. I'm not afraid of how strong the enemy is, but I'm afraid of being betrayed by traitors. It's time to clean up the cancer and chronic disease in our Yuan sect. Otherwise, the Yuan sect will become the backyard of the 10 immortal giant. A wisp of gloominess appeared between Li Zhen's brows as she said, This matter is definitely related to Chao Beidu and Yun Tianming. The former is backed by Fu Wen Vice Pavilion Masterly, while the latter's clan has always been under the command of the Dongwang clan. Both of them are inseparable from the 10 immortal giant. After a pause, he continued, I'm afraid Yuan Changtian also has something to do with it. Lin Sun said, Senior, to resist foreign aggression, we must first stabilize the internal situation. Since they dare to betray our sect, don't blame me for being impolite. Li Zhen took a deep breath and said, I'll help you. It was just 3 words, but it had already revealed his attitude. Then he frowned and said, Chao Beidu and Yun Tianming are easy to deal with, but do you really want to shed all pretense of cordiality with Yuan Changtian in the 10-direction demon territory? Lin Sun's eyes were deep and he said, That depends on his attitude. The wilderness was quiet, the mountains and rivers were lonely. In the next few days, Lin Sun stayed in meditation in the time seal and refined the heaven-rank origin of order. His cultivation was only a step away from breaking through to the middle stage of Nirvana realm. Before entering the 10-direction demon territory, Lin Sun's cultivation had stagnated at the early stage of Nirvana realm. Yet now, he'd only been in the 10 Devil Lands for less than half a month, yet his cultivation had already advanced to such an extent, and this sort of advancement could absolutely be said to be world-shocking. All of this naturally had something to do with the refining of the order energy. 129 Earth-rank origin orbs and 3 Heaven-rank origin orbs. Refining so much order energy was enough for other Nirvana realm cultivators to break through several times. Lin Sun couldn't break through because his foundation was too strong, and the potential of the Immortal Supreme was far greater than that of other cultivators at the same level. As a result, if he wanted to break through, he needed to refine more order energy than ordinary cultivators. On this day, the power of the time seal completely disappeared. Lin Sun and Li Zhen stood up. Senior, I plan to settle the score with those traitors after I break through. Lin Sun made a decision. Li Zhen nodded. He had said that all the actions would be decided by Lin Sun. P.S. 3 chapters in a row tonight. Chapter 2942. Lin Sun and Li Zhen walked towards the depths of the Wanhe mountain range. Through refining the order power, Lin Sun had clearly noticed the difference between the Earth Step Order origin and the Heaven Step Order origin. The Heaven Rank Order origin was purer, and the power it contained was also better. It was also more helpful for cultivation. In comparison, the Earth Step Order origin was very mediocre. Of course, this was only the difference in cultivation. For any Nirvana realm existence, the Earth Step Order origin was still a treasure. For the next period of time, Lin Sun and Li Zhen walked in the depths of the Wanhe mountain range, focusing all their attention on hunting order wild beasts. With their combat strength, they were not afraid of ordinary Heaven Step Order wild beasts. As time went by, the news of the defeat of Wang Juehuan and the other immortal giants could not be hidden at all. Soon, it spread to different demon regions. Southern Demon Region. In the depths of a swamp. Puff. A heaven-rank 5th-grade wild beast that looked like a giant python had its head smashed into pieces. Its huge body smashed into the swamp, splashing up a blood-colored wave. Song Fufeng stretched out his hand and grabbed, and a strand of Heaven Step Order wild beast fell into his palm. From the beginning of the battle until now, only a few breaths had passed. Looking at his thin figure standing above the swamp, the eyes of the 4 participants of the witchcraft cult were filled with fanaticism. The witchcraft cult believed in power and respected the strong. The more powerful the existence, the more respect they would receive. During this period of time, they had been following Tsang Fufeng and personally witnessed how Tsang Fufeng killed the Order Desolate Beasts effortlessly. As a result, their respect for Tsang Fufeng grew. Young Master, I just got the news that Wang Juehuan and the others were defeated. Seeing Tsang Fufeng coming from afar, a participant of the witchcraft cult hurriedly reported. Defeated? Tsang Fufeng was startled. His pair of eyes that were bright like fire diamonds surged with divine flames that could burn the heavens. How were you defeated? I'm not sure, but there are only 25 participants left of the 10 immortal giants. The casualties are heavy. Tsang Fufeng narrowed his eyes and said after a while, Lin Sun is indeed not simple. He sighed with emotion. He was only at the initial stage of the Nirvana God realm, yet he was able to achieve such a bloody battle under such a heavy siege. This caused him to be extremely apprehensive. Young master, this kid is extremely difficult to deal with indeed. If he's allowed to refine and absorb more and more energy of order in the next few years, then wouldn't it mean that his cultivation would advance by leaps and bounds along with it? Someone reminded. You want me to deal with him now? Song Fu Feng looked at that person, and the latter's body instantly stiffened. He broke out in a cold sweat and quickly shook his head. I'm just worried that this person will become a huge threat when we enter the Earth Devil region. A great threat, Song Fu Feng laughed, then we'll talk about it when the time comes. His mind wasn't on killing Lin Sun. The reason why he participated in the Immortal Law battle was to seize the greatest fortune in the 10 demonic lands. This would play a crucial role in his breakthrough to the Transcendent Realm. Northern Demon Region. I already know what happened. If you want to deal with Lin Sun, I won't stop you, but I won't do it now. When Xiao Shui said slowly. He stood in the clouds, searching for the traces of the Order wild beast. He wore a blue robe, and his hair was coiled into a bun. He was handsome and clean, but his temperament was as calm as a mountain. Once he made a decision, he wouldn't change it. Not far away, the 4 Buddhist lords of the Dhyana sect sighed in their hearts. If when Xiao Shui took action, they were confident that they could kill Lin Sun at this time. Unfortunately, when Xiao Shui didn't intend to do so, and they didn't dare to force him. The 9th Heaven God Clans Wen clan had produced many earth-shattering figures. In the past, they had also given a lot of support to the Dhyana sect. When Xiao Shui was one of the Wen clan's divine sons, and they had to respect his decision. Everyone, rest assured. If I encounter Lin Sun in the next period of time, I don't mind helping you. Hearing Wen Xiaoshui's words, Ku Xian, Ku Ji, and the others were relieved. Western Demon Region. In a canyon, there were piles of broken corpses. Blood covered the ground, and it was a shocking sight. Ji Shanhai clapped his hands and said, Clean up the battlefield. When Moon and Well comes back, we will go to the next place. Her figure was slender and elegant, dressed in a loose and simple black robe. Her long jet-black hair was coiled up by a green hairpin, and her face was simple and elegant. She was like an orchid in an empty valley, aloof from the world, untainted by a trace of dust. But the descendants of the spirit sect were all in a cold sweat. Previously, it was this goddess who had the title of being the most beautiful and pure in the world. She had effortlessly slaughtered a group of desolate beasts of order in this valley. Every wild beast, no matter how strong or weak, was slapped to death by her white and slender hands. Their bodies exploded and were torn apart, dying a miserable death. From beginning to end, they didn't have a chance to intervene. And who would have thought that such a quiet and elegant beauty, once in battle, would have a spirit as vast as the mountains and seas, with divine might that could conquer the world. It's time to act. Ji Shanhai's watery eyes glanced at the 3 descendants of the spirit sect. Instantly, these descendants of the spirit sect, as if awakened from a dream, began to clean up the spoils of war. Shwa. At the same time, a streak of light flew over from extremely far away, and it instantly appeared here before transforming into a lean and capable man. His black hair was tied up behind his head, and his face was angular. His gaze was deep and sharp, and his wheat-colored skin glistened under the light of the sky. It was Moon and Well. How is it? Ji Shanhai asked. Moon and Well smiled, revealing a row of white teeth. My junior brother is fine. As one of the descendants that your master has been waiting for, and one that the elders of the Yuan sect think so highly of, even if he wants to get into trouble, it won't be easy. Ji Shanhai said. Not far away, someone asked, Brother Jing, even the power of the 10 undying giants couldn't trap your junior brother? Other than Moon and Well, the other 3 participants of the spirit sect were Pu Songzi, Tan Luyun, and Lu Yufeng. The one who asked was Pu Songzi. Ha! Moon and Well laughed and said proudly, "Not only did they not trap him, but they were also completely defeated by my junior brother. Now only 25 people are still alive." Everyone was stunned and stopped what they were doing, their faces full of disbelief. Even Ji Shanhai was taken aback. "Is that really the case?" Moon and Well nodded, "Yes." "Alone?" Ji Shanhai asked. "An elder Li Jun of the Yuan sect." Ji Shanhai could not help but fall into deep thought. Pu Songzi and the others were in an uproar, discussing one by one. "I know Li Jun, and I have a friendship with him. I know very well that his combat power is very unusual, and he is not comparable to ordinary people of the same realm. However, no matter how strong he is, I'm afraid he can't do this." Tan Luyun pondered. "So, the key is still Lin Sun?" Pu Songzi was surprised. "We have to ask Brother Jing." Tan Luyun looked at Moon and Well. Moon and Well shrugged and said, "I don't know much about my junior brother. I only know that he is very strong. As for how strong he is, maybe he has to ask himself." Lu Yufeng joked, "Can he be stronger than Miss Shanhai?" Suddenly, the atmosphere became a little subtle. In front of Ji Shanhai, it was easy to cause a misunderstanding by comparing their strength. But Ji Shanhai smiled and said with her teeth slightly exposed, "I hope that he can really be stronger than me." When she was not fighting, she was like an orchid in an empty valley, calm as water and outstanding. But the meaning revealed in this sentence also showed that she also had her own pride and confidence in her heart. Only those who can compete with each other in the world will not be lonely. Moon and Well sighed. "Let's go to the next place to hunt the wild beasts of order." Ji Shanhai did not talk about this topic anymore, got up and walked away. Moon and Well, Pu Songzi, Tan Luyun, and Lu Yufeng followed closely. Eastern Demon Region. "It seems that I overestimated Wang Juehuan's ability." Yuan Changtian sighed softly. He also got the news. He was surprised and a trace of complex emotions surged in his heart. Was Lin Sun really so difficult to deal with? He had never underestimated Lin Sun, but now he found that it was also a kind of underestimation of Lin Sun. These idiots! Chao Beidu was so angry that his face was gloomy. Such a good situation, but they were defeated in such a way. Is it because they have been high and mighty for too long that they don't understand the principle that a lion should use all its strength to catch a rabbit? Be careful what you say. Yun Tianming glared at him. The top 10 immortal giants can't be slandered at will. What's more, a lion should see clearly who is the lion and who is the rabbit. Do you really think that Wang Juehuan, the chosen one, is comparable to those idiots? Chao Beidu's expression changed for a while. "I just can't accept such a result, but I dare not slander him at all. What I'm worried about now is that Lin Sun may already know that we have leaked his trace. With his nature and character, he will definitely not let it go." A touch of worry appeared between Yun Tianming's eyebrows. Thinking of what Lin Sun had done in Yuan sect, Chao Beidu could not help but feel a chill in his heart. He could not help but look at Yuan Changtian. "This time we are representing our sect. If we kill each other, it will be a disgrace to the entire Yuan sect. In my opinion, even if Lin Sun hates us to the core, he will not fall out with us in this immortal Taoist battle." Yuan Changtian said in a low voice. "I hope so." Chao Beidu let out a long sigh. Yuan Changtian frowned. Perhaps even Chao Beidu himself did not realize that after this incident, he had a sense of dread when talking about Lin Sun. "If you had asked for my opinion when you sent the news to the top 10 immortal giants, I'm afraid this would not have happened," Yuan Changtian said. "But now that it has happened, there is no need to worry about it. For the next period of time, you'd better behave yourself and spend your time hunting wild beasts of order." This was a warning to Chao Beidu and Yun Tianming. These two had always been serving the top 10 immortal giant. However, he, Yuan Changtian, needed people who were willing to serve him. Chapter 2943. Chao Beidu and Yun Tianming nodded in unison. Let's go. Yuan Changtian teleported into the distance. Elder Yuan, where are we going? Chao Beidu couldn't help asking. We're leaving the Eastern Demon Territory, Yuan Changtian said casually. Yuan Changtian said casually, I don't want to meet Lin Sun in the following days. In this case, I don't care, but it's not good for you. Chao Beidu and Yun Tianming felt depressed. But they had to admit that they really didn't want to run into Lin Sun. However, only an hour later, Yuan Changtian stopped in his tracks and frowned. Two figures stood in the distance. They were Lin Sun and Li Zhen. How could it be? Chao Beidu and Yun Tianming's expressions changed. The worst thing they wanted to see was about to happen. What a coincidence to see Brother Lin and Elder Li here. Yuan Changtian greeted them with a hearty smile. Not at all. It took me several days to find you. Fortunately, we finally met here. Otherwise, I'm afraid I wouldn't be able to see you in the entire Eastern Demon Territory. Lin Sun said indifferently. His words made Chao Beidu and Yun Tianming's hearts sink. Lin Sun really came for revenge. Yuan Changtian sighed. Brother Lin, we're all representatives of Yuan Church in this battle. Can you take a step back and stop fighting in the 10th Demon Territory? Otherwise, we'll be laughed at by others. It'll be a disgrace to Yuan Church. Elder Yuan didn't care that I'm a member of Yuan Church when you betrayed me. Lin Sun sneered. Or Elder Yuan is also involved in this matter? Chao Beidu scolded. Lin Sun, you're just a deacon. How can you talk to Elder Yuan like that? You're a traitor. What right do you have to criticize me? Lin Sun walked over as he spoke. His dark eyes were terrifyingly cold. I'll be frank. Today, I'm here to help the sect get rid of the traitor. Chao Beidu's expression changed. How dare you? You're not only slandering me, but also trying to hurt me? Yuan Changtian seemed to sense something. He narrowed his eyes and said, Middle stage of Nirvana realm. I never imagined that it's only been 2 months since you entered the 10-direction fiend region, yet Brother Lin's cultivation has actually already broken through a realm. Remarkable, truly remarkable. He did not try to hide his surprise. Advancing from the early Nirvana God realm to the mid-Nirvana God realm in 2 months, this transformation speed was simply unbelievable. What? Chao Beidu and Yun Tianming were also shocked. Lin Sun's combat strength was already so heaven-defying when he was at the early stage of Nirvana God. How terrifying would he be now? Elder Yuan, if you want to stop me, then you'll be my enemy. If you don't want to be on the same side as these two traitors, then it's best if you don't interfere with what happens next. Lin Sun's figure flashed and rushed towards Chao Beidu and Yun Tianming. Boom! The abyssal sword cauldron streaked across the sky, scattering millions and millions of rays of light. The power of time fluctuated as it charged towards Chao Beidu together with Lin Sun. Lin Sun, you're defying your superiors. If the sect finds out, you won't be forgiven. Chao Beidu bellowed with an ugly expression. As he spoke, his movements weren't slow at all. He activated a Dao sword and slashed out. Whoosh! Sword chi surged and laws surged. It was extremely ferocious and domineering. From this, one could see that anyone who could take on the role of an elder of the Yuan sect all had battle strength that far surpassed others in the same realm. They were even stronger than the 10 undying giants and the other participants. Unfortunately, Lin Sun, who had stepped into the middle stage of the Nirvana God realm, was no longer the same as before. Without using any talent, Lin Sun directly bombarded it with Abyssal Sword Cauldron. A terrifying collision sound rang out. The sword chi that Chao Beidu slashed out was directly crushed and exploded, causing chaos in heaven and earth. Chao Beidu's pupils constricted. He used all of his cultivation to activate the Dao sword and slashed. Dang! 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 Every single sword strike was domineering, ferocious, and peerlessly terrifying as they slashed fiercely at the abyssal sword cauldron that was pressing down. However, even after slashing out thousands of times, he was still unable to stop the abyssal sword cauldron's momentum. Sword chi continued to disperse, creating a beautiful sight. Chao Beida's expression changed completely as he tried to dodge. Clang! A Dao sword flew out from the abyssal sword cauldron and slashed out at an unbelievable speed. Crack! At this critical moment, Chao Beidu used the Dao sword to block in front of him. However, the moment it touched Lin Sun's Dao sword, it was cut into two. Lin Sun's Dao sword did not lose its momentum and continued to slash down. Elder Yuan, save! Chao Beidu roared. His face was pale and his heart was filled with extreme fear. Before he could finish, his head was chopped off. Blood spurted out from his neck like a waterfall. One slash. That absolutely crushing and murderous stance was like an invincible god that could sweep through the world. During this process, Yuan Changtian had the impulse to stop Chao Beidu several times. No matter what, Chao Beidu was still serving him. If Chao Beidu was killed under Yuan Changtian's eyes, it would make him lose all face. However, Yuan Changtian held back in the end. Firstly, it was because Lin Sun's current display of battle strength shocked him. Secondly, it was because he did not want to fall out with Lin Sun at this moment. It would delay his plan and affect his plan to seek for the great fortune in the 10 magic territory 10 years later. In fact, Yuan Changtian also knew that these were just excuses. In the final analysis, he was not absolutely sure that he could kill Lin Sun. No matter what, Chao Beidu was killed by Lin Sun like a hot knife through butter in front of his eyes. The bloody scene cast a shadow over Yuan Changtian's face. Yun Tianming, on the other hand, was so frightened that his hair stood on end. He fled into the distance at once. Yuan Changtian's indifferent attitude made him realize that he could no longer count on Yuan Changtian to resolve this crisis. Therefore, he could only flee. Do you think you can escape? A trace of disdain flashed across Lin Sun's eyes. He chased after them at once. Watching Lin Sun and Yun Tianming disappear, Yuan Changtian did not stop them. However, he couldn't help but clench his fists. Unconcealable anger and shame surged in his heart. As the divine son of the ninth heaven's Yuan clan, he even had a transcendent realm existence like Yuan Shilio by his side. Even if he entered the Yuan clan, he would be treated specially, and no one dared to disrespect him. But now, Lin Sun's merciless killing had deeply hurt his self-esteem. It made him feel embarrassed, and he lost his composure for the first time. His handsome face was faintly livid. Elder Yuan, do you think Lin Sun is right? Li Zhen, who was not far away, suddenly asked. Yuan Changtian took a deep breath and said coldly, Elder Li, we both know what's right and what's wrong. What's the point of asking? Elder Yuan, you don't have to be so angry. Li Zhen seemed to be deliberately provoking Yuan Changtian, saying, Lin Sun did this to eradicate the traitors for our sect. Speaking of this, Elder Yuan should be happy. Otherwise, if the sect finds out that you keep 2 traitors by your side, I'm afraid you will be implicated. Yuan Changtian wanted to slap Li Zhen to death, but in the end, he restrained himself and said, Elder Li, you are right. Looking at Yuan Changtian's uncomfortable expression, as if he had eaten a fly, Li Zhen couldn't help but laugh. Just as he was about to say something, Lin Sun's figure had returned from the void in the distance. Whoosh! Lin Sun arrived with a bloody head in his hand. It was Yun Tianming's. The Lord of the Second Peak had made no attempt to hide his hostility towards Lin Sun ever since Lin Sun had entered the Yuan clan. Yet now, he had died miserably at Lin Sun's hands. Even before he died, his face was filled with shock, anger, and fear. Brother Lin, how can you explain this to the sect when you go back? Yuan Changtian sighed. Elder Yuan, do you think what I did was wrong? Lin Sun looked at Yuan Changtian with cold eyes. Yuan Changtian felt a chill in his heart. Realizing that Lin Sun was very likely to fall out with him, he couldn't help but smile bitterly. No, I just think that even if they are traitors, they should be handed over to the sect to convict and punish. In this way, no one will gossip about you. Lin Sun said indifferently, "Don't worry, Elder Yuan. As early as in the Wanhe mountain range, I captured some enemies alive. They are all witnesses to prove that Chao Beidu and Yun Tianming are traitors." Yuan Changtian narrowed his eyes slightly and said with a smile, "Then I'm relieved." Li Zhen had a strange look in her eyes. She didn't expect that Lin Sun was so good at telling lies. There was no such thing as a hostage. Obviously, it was Meng Yuan Changtian's. Lin Sun was warning Yuan Changtian not to make a fuss about this matter. "What's your plan next, Brother Lin?" Yuan Changtian asked. "Do you want to act together?" Lin Sun shook his head. "Forget it. I've already said that I won't implicate others. I don't want Elder Yuan to be targeted by my enemies." Yuan Changtian's lips twitched imperceptibly. He said, "Since Brother Lin has made up your mind, I won't ask you to stay any longer. Goodbye." Then, he turned around and left. He was worried that if he stayed any longer, he wouldn't be able to control his anger and killing intent. "Elder Yuan." Lin Sun's voice suddenly came from behind. Yuan Changtian stopped and said, "Brother Lin, is there anything else?" "Nothing much. I just wanted to say that Elder Yuan's ability to maintain his composure is truly outstanding. However, in my opinion, there are some things that can be endured and some things that can't be endured. Enduring silently will instead make you lack the sharpness of bravery and slaughter, making you seem very useless. What do you think?" Lin Sun said. Lin Sun's words stimulated Yuan Changtian's anger, which he had suppressed with great difficulty. After a moment of silence, he took a deep breath and said, "Brother Lin, in my opinion, a lack of forbearance in small matters will spoil great plans. If you are always aggressive, you will die prematurely." As soon as he finished speaking, his figure tore through the sky and quickly disappeared. It seemed that if Lin Sun said one more word, Yuan Changtian would lose control of his killing intent and burst out completely. "This guy is really good at forbearance. He's scary." Witnessing this scene, Li Zhen couldn't help saying, "As a divine son, he's so shrewd. We should be more vigilant against him in the future." Lin Sun smiled and said, "If he had full confidence to kill me, why did he have to bear it before? In the final analysis, he was afraid of me." "Then why didn't you kill him before?" Li Zhen asked. Lin Sun put his hands behind his back and said casually, "If I killed him, I was afraid that some old guys would go crazy, which would be disadvantageous to my situation. Instead of that, it's better to keep him alive. He'll be more valuable to us if he's alive." More updates. Only by adding more updates would I have the confidence to ask for monthly vote. Chapter 2944. Li Zhen immediately understood. If he kills Yuan Changtian now, Yuan Shiliu, who is waiting outside the 10-direction demonic realm, won't let him off. The Genji clan of the 9th heaven won't let him off. Even when he returned to Yuan sect, Fu Wenli Qi Shaoyun, and other big shots would use this as an excuse to attack Lin. On the other hand, if Yuan Changtian was still alive, none of this would have happened. Moreover, the enemy would have spent all their efforts on cultivating Yuan Changtian, which would have given Lin Sun more time to rise. This was not fear, but a consideration of the pros and cons. For a moment, Li Zhen looked at Lin Sun in a different way. In the past, the impression Lin Sun gave him was that Lin Sun possessed terrifying reserves, a heaven-defying combat strength, and was extremely courageous. It seemed as if there was nothing in the world that Lin Sun feared. But as he worked side by side with Lin Sun for a period of time, he found that Lin Sun was not only broad-minded but also courageous and resourceful. This was extremely rare. "Senior, for the next period of time, I plan to focus on hunting orderly dire beasts. I want to strive to increase my cultivation level by another level when I enter the Earth Demon region 9 years later." Lin Sun said. 2 months of time had allowed his cultivation to undergo a qualitative transformation and step into the intermediate stage of the Nirvana God realm, and this caused Lin Sun to look forward to his next mission. He was very clearly aware that if he didn't have the opportunity to participate in the eternal Tao battles, then it would have taken him countless years to achieve such a breakthrough in his cultivation in such a short period of time. The 10 Directions demonic realm was different. There were order beasts scattered all over the place, and they could continuously hunt for order energy. However, these order energy were all incomplete, and there was almost no complete order energy. But for the cultivation of the Nirvana realm, it could be said to be the world's most precious treasure. However, Lin Sun had already noticed that as his cultivation broke through to the middle stage of Nirvana realm, the power of order below the 6th level of the earth rank would not be of much use. In other words, the power of order below the 6th level of the earth rank could hardly play any role in improving Lin Sun's cultivation. This was a reality that all cultivators had no choice but to face. In the lower 5 realms, any random spirit grass and spirit medicine would allow one's cultivation to advance by leaps and bounds. But as one's cultivation increased step by step, the cultivation resources that could satisfy one's cultivation also became rarer and rarer. And this was in the eternal true world. If Lin Sun had stayed in the galaxy's ancient path, he might not have been able to attain eternity. Therefore, Lin Sun cherished this opportunity very much. Li Zhen naturally had no objection to Lin's decision. In the following period of time, Lin Sun and Li Zhen's figures appeared in various areas of the Wanhe mountain range, trekking over mountains and rivers, hunting wild beasts. When they were tired, they would sit cross-legged to meditate, and when their physical strength was restored, they would continue trekking. His days were extremely fulfilling. Half a year later, Lin Sun and Li Zhen left the 10,000 ravine mountain range and headed towards one of the 3 great danger zones of the eastern demon region, the Blackstone Desert. The 1,000 Gully mountain range had already been swept clean by the 2 of them. They had hunted close to 500 earth-rank fierce beasts, but the number of heaven-rank desolate beasts was extremely few. There were less than 20 of them. From this, it could be seen how rare heaven-ranked desolate beasts were. 1 year later, Lin Sun and Li Zhen left Blackstone Desert. The harvest this time was even smaller. In the end, they only killed less than 200 earth-ranked wild beasts and 6 heaven-ranked wild beasts. The reason was that Yuan Changtian, Chao Beidu, and Yun Tianming had already swept through the place at the beginning of the Immortal Tao battles. Lin Sun's cultivation hadn't improved much. It wasn't as fast as before, but it was still thousands of times better than cultivating in the outside world. According to Lin Sun's own estimation, if he wanted to achieve the same rapid progress as before, he would need to refine a large amount of heaven-rank order energy. As for the earth-rank order energy, it was becoming less and less useful. In the end, Lin Sun simply stored the earth-rank order energy he had collected, planning to give it to his friends and family in the future. It couldn't be helped. Even Wu Shuang, the spirit of order, didn't want these treasures that everyone in the outside world coveted. The eastern demon region had 3 great ominous places. Apart from the 1,000 Gully mountain range and Blackstone Desert, there was also a place called the Turbulent Demon Sea. However, when Lin Sun and Li Zhen arrived, they discovered that Yuan Changtian was walking in this great ominous place. He had already hunted many order wild beasts. Lin Sun couldn't be bothered to compete with Yuan Changtian, so he decided to leave the eastern demon region. In the 10 demon regions, apart from the earth demon region and the sky demon region, there were 8 other demon regions. As for the forces participating in the Immortal Tao battle, the participants of the 4 ancestral halls and the 10 immortal giants had been moved to different 8 demon regions. However, Lin Sun was sure that there should be many areas in these demon regions that hadn't been swept away. As long as he seized the time, he would definitely be able to seize more order energy. It was also at this time that Lin Sun understood the meaning of the Immortal Tao battle. The participants of the major forces were competing with order wild beasts as their target. They were competing for order energy. This could be counted as a merit, and it could be used as proof of ranking at the end of the Immortal Tao battle. This was also a great fortune. After all, who would complain about having too much order energy? Let's go to the Southeast Demon region. Lin Sun made up his mind. Year after year passed. After the Eastern Demon region, Lin Sun and Li Zhen traveled to the Southeast Demon region and the Southern Demon region. During this period, Lin Sun and Li Zhen also encountered some enemies. For example, when they were in the Southeast Demon region, they encountered Wang Zhuhuan and the other 10 immortal giant. When enemies met, their eyes naturally burned with hatred. Fighting was inevitable. Unfortunately, with the heavy lesson of last time's fiasco, Wang Zhuhuan chose to retreat as soon as he sensed Lin Sun and Li Zhen's presence. This seemed very cowardly. But Lin Sun was sure that Wang Zhuhuan and the others wouldn't give up just like that. The reason they chose to retreat was because they hadn't found an opportunity yet. According to Li Zhen, in the entire eternal true world, Lin Sun was the only one who could force the 10 immortal giants to flee at the sight of him. This wasn't an exaggeration. If it were anyone else, they would have been hacked to death by Wang Zhuhuan and the others. In the Southern Demon region, Lin Sun and Li Zhen encountered a surprise attack from the voodoo cult. At that time, the voodoo cult was led by Tsang Fufeng. When Lin Sun and Li Zhen were hunting a heaven wild beast, they suddenly launched an attack. The situation could be said to be extremely dangerous. At the critical moment, Lin Sun used the Seal of Time to block the attack. Only then did they resolve this sudden killing crisis. When their attack failed, Tsang Fufeng and the others realized the power of the Seal of Time. After trying to attack several times but to no avail, they turned around and retreated. Lin Sun didn't counterattack at that time, nor did he chase after them because he noticed that in addition to Tsang Fufeng and the others, the 4 Buddhist lords of the Zen sect were also hiding in the dark. This experience also made Lin Sun more vigilant. In the 6th year after entering the 10 Demon region, on a bloody wasteland in the Southwest Demon region, Senior, I planned to meditate in seclusion for a period of time. Lin Sun, who had just experienced a great battle and killed more than 10 order wild beasts, said. You're about to break through? Li Zhen asked. Over the past 6 years, he and Lin Sun had traveled to different demon regions and killed more than 5,000 Earth-rank wild beasts. Even the number of Heaven-rank wild beasts they killed had reached more than 100. After refining the Heaven-rank wild beasts, Lin Sun's cultivation had reached the peak of the middle stage of Nirvana God. He was only 1 step away from the late stage of Nirvana God. Not bad. Lin Sun nodded with anticipation in his eyes. Compared to the last time when he broke through the middle stage of Nirvana God, it only took him 2 months to break through this time. In the end, it was because there were too few Heaven-rank wild beasts, and the Order wild beasts possessed the Earth-rank wild beasts could no longer satisfy Lin Sun's needs. However, for Lin Sun, this kind of progress was already very good. At least if he didn't participate in this Immortal Tao battle, he didn't dare to imagine how long it would take for him to reach the late stage of Nirvana God. Even 1,000 years was considered short. I have to say, after living for so many years, you're definitely the fastest person I've ever seen in the Nirvana God realm. Li Zhen couldn't hide the shock in his heart. In the outside world, this kind of cultivation speed was definitely a miracle. It was enough to create an unbreakable record. Who asked me to only be an Earth-rank Nirvana God when I participated in the Immortal Tao battle? Lin Sun laughed. Almost all the experts participating in the Immortal Tao battle were at the Nirvana God stage. No matter how much order energy they obtained, it wouldn't be of much help to their cultivation. Just like Li Zhen, she had told Lin Sun from the beginning that he had no use for the power of order. It was the same for the other participants. In this way, how rapid Lin Sun's progress was could be seen. In other words, Lin Sun was catching up with other participants in the 10 devilish realms step by step in terms of cultivation with the power of order he hunted. But in terms of combat strength, it was a different story. At the very least, Lin Sun had killed many participants when he was at the early stage of the Nirvana realm. And now, he was about to break through to the late Nirvana God realm from the mid-Nirvana God realm. On that day, Lin found a secluded place and set up the Seal of Time. Then, he took out the heaven-ranked Order Origin that he had recently collected from the Abyssal Sword Cauldron and began to meditate and cultivate. Li Zhen stood guard at the side. 5 days later, a muffled rumble suddenly rang out between the heavens and earth, shaking the earth and shaking the heavens. Following that, a series of beast roars came from afar, resounding like dense claps of thunder. Rumble! Rumble! The commotion was so great that it made Li Zhen's heart skip a beat. He stood up abruptly and saw a long black line appearing in the distance. It was moving towards him at an astonishing speed. The black line that stretched between the heavens and the earth was formed by countless wild beasts of order. They covered the sky and the earth like a tide. They roared and roared, turning into a torrent that swept through the mountains and rivers. The sky changed color, the sun and the moon dimmed, and the earth shook violently as if it was collapsing. The momentum made Li Zhen's expression change. Beast tide. It was a calamity formed by countless order wild beasts. Chapter 2945. It was Li Zhen's first time seeing such a large-scale beast tide in the 6 years since he entered the 10 demon territories. Covered the sky and covered the earth. It swept through the mountains and rivers. This did not seem like an ordinary beast tide. Instead, it seemed like countless densely packed order energies had gathered together, covering the sky and earth to bring disaster to the human world. Rumble! The earth shook and mountains and rivers collapsed one by one. The terrifying aura of order energies was spreading toward them at an extremely fast speed. Li Zhen was about to remind him when Lin Sun, who was meditating, stood up. There was a hint of seriousness in his eyes. "Senior, retreat quickly." As he spoke, he and Li Zhen had already teleported into the distance. Looking down from the sky, Lin Sun and Li Zhen could not help but gasp. In the distance, the figures of the order wild beasts were like a black storm wreaking havoc. There were tens of thousands of them, and wherever they passed, the world seemed to be crushed. It was a scene of desolation. Lin Sun and Li Zhen did not dare to be negligent. They avoided the sharp edge and hid far away. What surprised them was that the huge beast tide was not coming for them. Instead, it was rushing from the east to the west. Rumble! There were densely packed ferocious birds in the sky, and countless ferocious beasts on the ground. They trampled through the mountains and rivers, tore the sky apart, and passed under Lin Sun and Li Zhen's eyelids in a mighty manner. Where are they going? Lin Sun frowned, a little bewildered. In his divine consciousness, there should be tens of thousands of this beast tide. More than 90% of them were Earth-rank order wild beasts, and only a small number were Heaven-rank order wild beasts. Li Zhen said, "Rumor has it that before the world barrier to the Earth Demon territory opens, the order wild beasts distributed in the 8 demon territories will sense it and gather in groups to head to the Earth Demon abyss." Lin Sun was stunned. He suddenly remembered that the Earth Demon territory was located in the deepest part of the Earth Demon abyss. These order wild beasts evolve by devouring and absorbing order energies. The more order energies they devour, the more powerful they can evolve. Beneath the Earth Demon abyss lies an unimaginable amount of order energies, Li Zhen said. The order wild beasts that turned into the beast tide must have sensed that the world barrier of the Earth Demon territory has begun to change, so they immediately rushed to the Earth Demon abyss. Something similar has happened in the past Immortal Dao battles. If I'm not mistaken, in the next 3 years, there will be more and more beast tides like this. Lin Sun's eyes flashed, but there is also a rumor that there is an Order Beast King under the Earth Demon abyss. It is because of the call of the Order Beast King that countless Order wild beasts are attracted here. And in the end, these desolate beasts that reach the Earth Demon abyss will all become food for the Beast Kings of Order to be eaten. The Beast Kings of Order do this to accumulate enough power to charge into the Earth Demon domain. Only by entering the Earth Demon region can the Order Beast Kings achieve a further transformation in their own strength. Hearing this, Li Zhen nodded. There is indeed such a saying. What we can be sure of is that there is a true Order Beast King in the Earth Demon region. The Order power that it possesses is completely intact and is completely different from other Order beasts. Lin Sun looked into the distance and suddenly said with a smile, "Senior, there are so many wild beasts of Order. We can't let them slip away under our eyes." The vast beast horde was about to disappear into the far west. As long as we don't confront the beast horde head-on, we can take the opportunity to fish in troubled waters. Li Zhen was also eager to have a try. "Let's go and catch up with them." Lin Sun rushed into the distance immediately. At this time, Li Zhen suddenly found that Lin Sun's cultivation had quietly broken through during the 5 days of closed-door training. Late stage of Nirvana realm. Although Li Zhen had long been sure that there would be no twists and turns in Lin Sun's breakthrough, she still couldn't help feeling shocked when she witnessed all this with her own eyes. More than 6 years. From the early stage of Nirvana realm to the late stage of Nirvana realm. Since ancient times, who could compare with such a speed of breaking through the realm? Boom! Boom! In the distance, the beast horde swept through the mountains and rivers, and the world was shaking. Gradually, Lin Sun and Li Zhen caught up from behind. However, before they could take action, a green light suddenly rushed out from the other side of the beast horde. It was like a hazy misty rain, spreading in the void. Puff! Puff! With a muffled sound, more than 30 wild beasts of Order covered by the green light were burned into ashes in an instant. Whoosh! Suddenly, another green light swept out like a big net, burning more than 20 wild beasts of Order. The most terrifying thing was that these wild beasts of Order had clearly sensed the danger and launched a counterattack. But when they touched the green light, they were burned instantly like moths flying into the fire. This domineering scene made Lin Sun and Li Zhen's eyes narrow and their hearts tremble. At this time, Lin Sun finally saw clearly that the one who cast the green light was a woman. She was tall and slender, wearing a plain robe with wide sleeves. Her black hair hung down to her waist, and her face was fair and clean. She was as beautiful as an orchid in an empty valley, aloof from the world. It was Ji Shanhai. At this moment, she was holding a green spear that was 18 feet long. The body of the spear was crystal clear and light green in color. As she waved it, the tip of the spear would release a green brilliance. It was as soft as misty rain, but it was filled with a terrifying incinerating power. The death of the desolate beasts of Order was caused by her. Ji's green fire purifying spear. Li Zhen said in surprise. Green fire purifying spear. It was a legendary divine weapon of the Ji God clan. It had the power to incinerate the universe and purify the world. The one who cast this divine weapon was a supreme figure that didn't belong to this era. He was known as the King of Weapons. When the King of Weapons was refining this weapon, he searched the world and gathered the essence of 100,000 divine flames. He tempered it with countless immortal gold and divine iron. During the refining process, this weapon went through 9 strange and forbidden tribulations. On the day it was completed, it seized all the good fortune. It was rumored that this weapon was intelligent and couldn't be tamed. Only those who were recognized by it could become its master. And it was said that when Ji Shanhai was born, the green fire-purifying spear that was imprisoned in the Ji God clan let out an earth-shattering cry. It broke the shackles and rushed to Ji Shanhai's side. It turned into a strand of green hair and wrapped around her little finger. This was also one of the things that people took delight in talking about. Before Lin Sun participated in the Immortal Dao battle, he had read about Ji Shanhai and the green fire-purifying spear when he was studying the information of the participants. That time, he was quite surprised. Now that he saw the power of this spear, Lin Sun was also moved because he could feel the power of time from the green fire-purifying spear. Being respected by Yuan Changtian and Song Fufeng and possessing such a treasure, this woman is really not simple, Lin Sun thought. He still remembered the subtle look in Yuan Changtian's eyes every time he talked about Ji Shanhai. There was both passion and fear in his eyes. He also remembered that when Ji Shanhai appeared in the witchcraft cult, she became the focus of everyone's attention. All this was enough to prove that Ji Shanhai wasn't simple. Do you want to have a competition? While Lin Sun was thinking, a quiet and clear voice suddenly sounded in the distance. At the same time, Lin Sun noticed that Ji Shanhai's eyes were looking at him from afar. Her phoenix eyes were like crystal-clear stars. How? Lin Sun raised his eyebrows. Ji Shanhai waved the green fire-purifying spear and pointed at the beast tide in the distance. From now on, until we reach the Earth Demon Abyss, we'll see who can kill more wild beasts of order. As long as you win, I'll tell you a secret. Lin Sun asked with interest, a secret? If you want to know, you have to beat me. As he spoke, Ji Shanhai had already started to move. With a sweep of the green spear, the sky was full of green lights and shadows, dreamy and illusory. Boom! In the far distance, the bodies of more than 10 wild beasts of order were incinerated into ashes. Ji Shanhai's slender figure seemed to be moving slowly but was actually very fast. In the blink of an eye, she had caught up with the beast tide. During the battle, she was outstanding and had the momentum of conquering the world. Then I'd like to see what kind of secret you will tell me. Although Lin Sun didn't understand why Ji Shanhai did this, he had to admit that this success aroused his interest. He immediately took out the abyssal sword cauldron and stepped forward with a hearty smile. Boom! Lin Sun's cultivation, which had broken through the late stage of Nirvana God, suddenly changed. His tall figure was steaming with hundreds of millions of lights, which evolved into an obscure abyss. And he took out the abyssal sword cauldron immediately. Looking from afar, it was as if an ancient divine mountain had fallen from the sky and smashed into the beast tide. Immediately, the wild beasts of order exploded into pieces, and the ground was blasted into a huge pit. The air was filled with blood. With one strike, he killed 29 wild beasts of order. This domineering and bloody scene made Li Zhen's eyelids twitch. Lin Sun, who was at the late stage of Nirvana God, had become even more powerful than before. The late stage of Nirvana God? On the other side of the void, Ji Shanhai also revealed a trace of surprise. Then, she withdrew her gaze, shook the green world purification spear in her hand, and rushed forward. The beauty was as beautiful as jade, and her momentum was like a rainbow. The majestic horde of beasts was running wildly in the world. Anyone who was drawn into it would most likely encounter a life-threatening danger. When attacked, these wild beasts of order would not let themselves be slaughtered. They would be enraged and fight back like crazy. That kind of power was not something that anyone would dare to face head-on. But today, whether it was Lin Sun or Ji Shanhai, they were not afraid of it. The beast tide ran wildly from east to west, while the two of them were on the north and south sides of the beast tide, chasing after the beast tide and attacking it continuously. For a time, there would be wild beasts of order being killed in the beast tide from time to time. They were either incinerated into ashes or blasted into dregs, leaving behind a trail of blood. Li Zhen, who had been chasing behind, no longer had the time to be shocked. She chased after them like an odd-job worker, collecting the spoils of war along the way. Ha ha, Li Zhen, when did you become a dirty worker? Not long after, a loud laughter with a hint of mockery was heard. Along with the voice, Pu Songzi, Tan Luyun, and Lu Yufeng of the Spirit Church appeared. The one who had spoken to Li Zhen was Tan Luyun. He and Li Zhen had known each other a long time ago, and it was the kind of friendship that resulted from an exchange of blows. Cut the crap. If the Spirit Church doesn't want the merits of Ji Shanhai's kills, they will all belong to the Yuan Church. Li Zhen snorted coldly. His action of collecting the spoils of war became faster, and he snatched a lot of the spoils of war that Ji Shanhai had killed along the way. Tan Luyun immediately became anxious and exasperated. Old man, stop. P.S. Seeking monthly votes. As long as the monthly votes return to the top 20, Goldfish guarantees that there will be an update tonight.